Chapter 2356, 16,000 points. Chapter 2356, 16,000 points. I heard that Master is going to take quite a few new disciples this time round, Zhikong said. He looked at Ling Han and broke into a smile. There is a strange pattern, or it may be a coincidence. Every 9th disciple that Master takes would be extraordinarily strong. My 9th junior brother was the first to advance to the 18th Lotus Ancestral King out of all the disciples. My 19th junior brother, despite joining later, has surpassed him. Not only has he become an 18th Lotus Ancestral King, his battle prowess is also world-shaking, one of the very best among Ancestral Kings. Though my 29th junior brother has only just advanced into the ranks of Ancestral Kings, so far, the prodigies that joined in the same period as he has are but at the 9th Lotus. And now, there is definitely one among you that can become the 39th disciple. I am slightly curious myself. There was a coincidence like that? Ling Han was internally unconcerned. Though there was indeed the saying of fortune in the world, he was not a person that belonged to this heaven and earth, so how could fortune possibly boost him? Making no mistakes was already a success. However, since Zhikong had said thus, Ling Han also responded with a smile and said, I will keep senior brother Zhikong's words in mind and try to get the 39th place. Zhikong nodded and then continued, Master is in seclusion here and forbids anyone from approaching. However, it is not because that would cause him any disturbance, but rather because his strength is really too great. A slight thought would be capable of destroying the heavens and eliminating the earth. The safety zone that Master has created ends after this line. Hence, I stand guard here, firstly to borrow Master's fortune, and secondly to prevent new junior sisters and junior brothers from accidentally barging into this area in a moment of carelessness. Ling Han nodded and clasped his hands, saying, Thank you for the advice, senior brother. Yet he was internally curious. Since a Heavenly Venerable tier had omnipotent power, what need was there to create a safety zone? Even if he was in seclusion, so what? If he desired this place to be safe, this place would become impenetrable. If he wanted this place to be dangerous, then this would be a danger zone that even an 18th Lotus Ancestral King would get a headache about. Something was wrong. Ling Han had a powerful feeling of crisis. He had to stop the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity from coming up with a method to adapt to the power of heaven and earth of the celestial realm, and the real self of this Heavenly Venerate was constantly in seclusion, studying this kind of method precisely. Ling Han had to cause some damage. There were two options. One was to take all the humans into the Black Tower. Without any materials, how was the other party to continue his studies? Or the second one, which was to launch a sneak attack on this old geezer. The greatest taboo during seclusion was to be disturbed by others. But would merely 9th Lotus tier's strength be capable of disturbing a Heavenly Venerate? No matter how he thought about it, it was delusional. He had best take the first option. Ling Han bid Zhikong farewell and did not roam any further. Instead, he returned to his own place, waiting patiently. A few days later, a sliver of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity's divine sense descended. Huang. A feeling of unease and anxiety instantly rose up in everyone's heart. It was as if even their soul was trembling. Ling Han understood internally. This was because Heavenly Venerable tier was an existence that surpassed regulations, yet what everyone was cultivating was precisely regulations. Thus, when they encountered a Heavenly Venerate, they would be just like mice that had come upon a cat. Both sides were not even on the same level at all. Ling Han was unafraid, because he, too, had once been an overlord of a realm, though it was not all that authentic, but at least he had still been a pseudo-Heavenly Venerable tier, and was no weaker in level. In fact, from a certain aspect, he had been the strongest of a small realm, while Heavenly Venerates were only several of the stronger existences in a large realm. In that aspect, he was more impressive. A thought suddenly rose up in his mind. Why was it that a Heavenly Venerate could not produce another Heavenly Venerate from their teachings? That was right. Being at the side of this Heavenly Venerable tier, learning, and studying the aura of the Heavenly Venerate would indeed help one to become a Heavenly Venerate, But if it took too long, the majesty of this heavenly venerate would be subconsciously carved into their bones, and they would continue living in the former's shadow. Since that was the case, how were they then supposed to become heavenly venerates? Hence, one could be close with a heavenly venerate, but the time period definitely could not be too long. Greetings, Master. Greetings, Lord Desolate Eternity. Everyone bowed down. Though Ling Han was internally displeased, he still had to pretend for now, and thus bowed down with the three women following suit. The divine sense of the heavenly venerate Desolate Eternity took the form of a demon race member. Because only holy beasts and insect race needed to take human form, the image that this sliver of divine sense took should be the original appearance of the heavenly venerate Desolate Eternity. He was of very short build. In fact, his body was slightly stooped, with a single horn as black as ink growing from his head. Meanwhile, his skin was no different from any other demon race members, being as bright red as blood. Merely appearance-wise, he really did not have the slightest outstanding trait. Celestial kings would be entwined by various colored clouds, but he was very ordinary, so average that others would forget him quickly after the first look. But when his eyes swept over, Ling Han felt that his thought processes actually stopped, as if time itself was frozen. When he regained his wits, it was unknown how much time had already passed. Perhaps it had only been an instant, or it might have been millions and millions of years. In fact, Ling Han felt that even Small Tower had awoken, exuding a strong feeling of wariness. The precious tool of a heavenly venerate was actually afraid. I made some miscalculations. The vitality index of the original self of this living creature should be close to 16,000 points. The heaven-deceiving technique that I modified cannot deceive his original self, but thankfully this is just the wave created by a sliver of his divine sense. Wally's voice rang out. Fuck! Ling Han almost wanted to strangle this guy. The latter's slight mistake would cause him to lose his life. The activation of the Black Tower would need time, and he would also need time to complete a thought, and this bit of time was enough for a heavenly venerate to kill him hundreds of millions of times over. Who would have thought? Wally would actually have a moment when he could not be depended on. Hold on, the vitality index of a heavenly venerate was 15,000 points, so what the heck did close to 16,000 mean? Ling Han asked Wally through encrypted divine sense about this. 15,000 is heavenly venerable tier, so what is 16,000? Great heavenly venerate? Naturally heavenly venerate as well, just an even stronger heavenly venerate, Wally replied unhurriedly. Additionally, you are a pure living being, so the concealment of your spiritual fluctuation cannot compare to mine. Thus, it is best you do not speak to me, or you will increase the chances of being discovered, which will be as high as 57%. As expected, when his words fell, the eyes of the heavenly venerate Desolate Eternity turned over to him and roamed over Ling Han's face, seeming to be quite intrigued before then sliding past. You all, the heavenly venerate Desolate Eternity's eyes paused on the faces of Ling Han, Huaijian, Shuegu, Jing Zhongyue, and Su Xing, respectively, represent the most outstanding younger generation in the latest epoch of our realm. Today, I shall take you as disciples, and hope that you can advance further, reaching a height similar to mine. Thank you for your training, Master, the five of them answered simultaneously. The Empress, Hunyeo, and bewitching Maiden Ro were not qualified to become the disciples of the heavenly venerate Desolate Eternity. They were only here as Ling Han's family. The Desolate Eternity, heavenly venerate nodded. I do not like unnecessarily elaborate mannerisms. You all may just kowtow, and you will all be my disciples in the future. Disciples pay respects to Lord Master. Ling Han and the others all knelt down and bowed. Only Ling Han was muttering internally when he did so. Old geezer, I will bow down to you today, but you will have to return the favor in the future. The heavenly venerate Desolate Eternity smiled, and looked again at their five faces before saying, Huai Jin is the first that I have set my eyes on, so he is naturally your senior brother, and becomes my 37th disciple.
Yes.
Huai Jin nodded respectfully. Shuegu, you are the 38th disciple. Yes. Jing Zhongyue, you are the 39th disciple. Understood. Su Xing, you are the 40th disciple. Yes. Ba, Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity, looked towards Ling Han. You originally should have been 38th, but you have come together with Huaijian. I did not deliberately manifest myself, so you will be counted as the youngest. Chapter 2357, Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternities Tao. Chapter 2357, Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternities Tao. Understood. Ling Han nodded respectfully as well. He only wanted to feel the aura of a Heavenly Venerate, and was not concerned about whether he could be the 38th disciple or what his rank was among the other disciples. This is the knowledge that has come from my recent studies. I bestow it on you all. The Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity flicked his fingers, and shto, 5 streaks of light darted from his hands, sinking respectively into the foreheads of Ling Han and the others. The 5 of them hurriedly bowed in gratitude once more, but the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity only waved a hand, and this sliver of divine sense instantly disappeared. Ling Han checked himself and discovered a sphere of light had appeared in his mind. With a light touch, millions of regulations instantly flowed out, as if the heaven and earth itself had manifested and taken form. If he used this to cultivate, it would mean half the work with twice the results. Unfortunately, this was not effective for Ling Han, because he had the Origin Magic Cube, which was even more helpful for his cultivation. However, this was still a treasure. Why? Because this contained the power of heaven and earth that the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity had cultivated. The reason why a Heavenly Venerable tier was so strong was because he had leaped out of the range of regulations and touched the essence of heaven and earth, becoming capable of directly using the power of heaven and earth. And just now, when the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity bestowed it on the 5 of them, it was inevitable that he would also be gifting a bit of his own power to them. Though it was pitifully little, in essence, there was no difference. The others would be completely unable to detect this kind of power. Even an 18th Lotus Ancestral King could only detect it with great difficulty. Only a pseudo-Heavenly Venerate who had touched the power of heaven and earth before, and was close to comprehending the essence of the heaven and earth, was capable of understanding it. Coincidentally, Ling Han was one such existence. He had once been a pseudo-Heavenly Venerate, and even if his present strength and cultivation level had fallen from that level, his sensitivity for the power of heaven and earth was still there. Otherwise, he could not possibly have been able to extract void particle energy. This is the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternities Tao. Ling Han thought, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Now that he had understood the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternities Tao in advance, should the 2 of them clash in the future, he would be able to grab the key moment first on the precondition that he himself had become a Heavenly Venerate as well. Huh. Ling Han showed a hint of surprise, and was even stunned to the extreme. In the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternities power, he discovered several slivers of aura that belonged to the celestial realm. How is this possible? The Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was an elite of the foreign realm, so how could he possibly extract the essence power of the celestial realm? If it was said that the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was actually an elite that originated from the celestial realm, there was clearly the aura of the heaven and earth of the foreign realm within his power, and was clearly dominant in his power at that. Hiss, the old geezer was presently studying how to remove the restrictions of the heaven and earth of the celestial realm. Was he already close to succeeding? No. Not being repressed by the heaven and earth was one thing, but possessing the power of another realm was another. Even the Dark Inverse realm had only sent Wally and another super elite into this realm to steal the power of heaven and earth of the foreign realm after absorbing all the knowledge of the high-level dimension. Ling Han was extremely curious. Could it be that the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity had gone to cultivate in the celestial realm, and had thus managed to comprehend the essence power of the celestial realm? But the overall level of the celestial realm was lower, and a Heavenly Venerate would be immediately targeted the moment they appeared. Those like the Heavenly Venerates of the foreign realm would be further repressed. This was no joking matter. Otherwise, Ling Han did not believe that the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable was so strong that he was capable of facing off against everyone on his own when the 9 great Heavenly Venerates attacked the celestial realm together. It had to be that the heaven and earth of the celestial realm had repressed them, and that was why the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable had managed to perform a miracle. But precisely because of this, it was really too inconceivable that the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity had managed to cultivate the power of heaven and earth of the celestial realm. Hold on, I have overlooked an important clue. Ling Han recalled the human slaves on Divine Desolate Mountain. They were beings that had originated from the celestial realm. Could they be related to the fact that the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity had successfully comprehended this kind of power? These beings were too insignificant. Logically, there was no way that they could help a Heavenly Venerate comprehend the power of heaven and earth of another realm, but judging from the present situation, what deduction would be more logical than this? I will discuss it further with Wally later. Junior brothers and junior sister, congratulations, congratulations. The moment the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity left, Zishuang and the others approached, offering congratulations to Ling Han and the others. The Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity had taken 36 disciples previously, and 11 of them had already completed their training and become independent. Some were at the two-realm battlefield, resisting the invasion of the Dark Inverse Realm, some were part of the invading troops against the Celestial Realm, and some were roaming the world, longing to take the final step and advance into the Heavenly Venerable tier. There were only 25 disciples presently here, and there were as many as 19 among them that were still at the 9th lotus. They were all disciples that the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity had taken in the last few billion years. Previously, the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity had been very careful in taking disciples. He had not demanded that they all had high natural talent, but they all had their unique traits, unlike now, when he would only take disciples that had astonishingly high natural talent. These disciples all had their own secret schemes, especially those who were similarly at the 9th lotus. Everyone would soon become direct competitors. Though they were very cordial in their words, a storm was already brewing in secret. Those like Feng Haowan and Si Huang Yun were glaring coldly and angrily at Ling Han, making no effort to conceal their animosity. Ling Han was in no mood to bother about them. After speaking a few casual words with them, he brought the 3 women back to his quarters, and then immediately related the doubts that he had. The 3 women were naturally extremely stunned by this, and offered their own deductions on the identity of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity. Could it be that he was a Heavenly Venerate that had betrayed the celestial realm? Ling Han asked Wally, and the latter directly replied that he did not have enough information, and was thus unable to make his deductions. Ling Han thought for a long time, and decided to first set this matter aside. Instead, he had to save the slaves here. Whether these people needed Ling Han to save them was not important, because they had already been completely brainwashed. Helping to free them from the fate of being slaves would instead gain their hatred, but if their existence would help the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity to comprehend the power of heaven and earth of the celestial realm, then Ling Han was determined to take them away with him no matter what. He waited for a few days, and secretly grasped the situation on Divine Desolate Mountain. He knew where these human slaves resided, and then all he had to do was wait until that sliver of divine sense of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity left. If he did something in the presence of the divine sense of this Heavenly Venerate, he would definitely be caught red-handed. If you tried hard, you were bound to succeed eventually. 3 years later, the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity received a message from another Heavenly Venerate and left to attend a conference of Heavenly Venerates. Ling Han finally found his chance. In a single stroke, he had taken 1/3 of the human slaves, and when he was just about to take a few more in, he alerted an ancestral king, so he could only hide himself in the Black Tower and retreat. On the second day, a great commotion instantly arose on Divine Desolate Mountain. Someone had actually barged into the place of enlightenment of a Heavenly Venerate and kidnapped people. The main body of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity naturally could not be disturbed, and his sliver of divine sense had already left. Thus, this matter could only be delegated to the two ancestral kings. Originally, everything that happened here would be handled by ancestral King Nawa. He had just broken through to 10th Lotus 700 million years ago, and was now already a 12th Lotus existence, his advancement being astonishingly rapid. Because he was a monarch tier, he would be able to reach the height of 13th Lotus or 14th Lotus with his own power even without the guidance of a Heavenly Venerate. But because this matter was about the pride of the line of the Desolate Eternity, he invited Ji Kong to join him, and the two great ancestral kings investigated this matter together. This naturally produced zero results. The protective barrier around the mountain had not been damaged in the slightest, and they could not understand how this great thief had managed to barge in no matter how hard they thought. More importantly, why had this great thief kidnapped so many of their human slaves? Chapter 2358, Volcano. Chapter 2358, Volcano. Presently, surveillance was tight, so Ling Han naturally would not make any further movements, but rather chose to wait patiently. Not long afterwards, a rumor spread farther and farther on the mountain. This thieving criminal came from the line of the Desolate Eternity, and Ling Han and the other new disciples were being directly targeted as suspects. Why had nothing happened before, and something had come up the moment they came? Huaijian and the others all did not bother to refute. What a joke! What would they be doing with these lowly slaves? Even Shuegu scoffed. He only thought of these slaves as snacks for him. He would not droop so low to steal them away. This kind of rumor naturally had no basis, but why had it spread? Ling Han knew that it had to be those senior brothers and senior sisters that had come up with it, and their motive was to smear the names of Ling Han and the others. The line of the Desolate Eternity had always been competitive. With so many apprentice brothers and sisters, how were they supposed to contend for favor without using some tricks? Ling Han couldn't help but laugh secretly. These people's blind guess had actually hit the spot, but these people would definitely be unable to guess the real purpose that he had kidnapped these humans for. Because two ancestral kings were taking turns to stand guard, Ling Han did not find any chance to do anything, so he could only continue waiting. And as he waited, another 5 years passed. A guest suddenly arrived on Divine Desolate Mountain. He was an insect race member, but he had taken human form. His arms still maintained the form of the insect race, being covered with black scales, and he did not have hands, but rather two gigantic pincers that looked like weapons forged from divine metal. So it is junior brother Liao Kong, Underlord Underworld. They came out to meet him, and while they were at it, introduced him to those who didn't know who he was. Underworld was the title of a Heavenly Venerate. Liao Kong greeted them with a nod. My exalted master has invited Lord Desolate Eternity over to discuss some matters, and just happened to discover a volcanic eruption from which the source power of heaven and earth is flowing. It is greatly helpful for those 9th Lotus senior brothers and senior sisters, as well as those junior brothers and junior sisters who are close to breaking through to the 9th Lotus. He has thus commanded that I pay you a visit and bring all of you there. Though the cultivation systems of the foreign realm and the celestial realm differed, certain aspects were similar. For example, progressing from the immortal palace tier to ascending origin tier in the celestial realm, or from the 8th Lotus to 9th Lotus in the foreign realm, was a qualitative change. In the celestial realm, origin power was converted into source power, whose quality was far higher than origin powers. Why was it said that even if celestial kings did not have the power of regulation, their battle prowess was still capable of matching severing mundane tier? That was because the overall level of source power was higher. Otherwise, no matter how great their power, it would still be like a strong man striking others with a paper stick, completely dealing no damage. In the foreign realm, this step similarly spelt a qualitative change in spiritual power. The breach from the immortal palace tier to ascending origin tier could be executed slowly, converting origin power bit by bit into source power. To speak in layman's terms, that was to compress 10,000, 100 million bits of origin power could condense into 1 bit of source power. If the ratio differed, the quality and amount of source power would also be different. Naturally, the harder it was being compressed, the better. But this kind of conversion rate was extremely slow. If one could lend assistance from the power of heaven and earth, the conversion rate would be greatly boosted. Thus, one could break through to the ascending origin tier behind closed doors by themselves, or could also venture into a natural mystery realm. Furthermore, the process of condensing source power would still be very slow even after crossing over into the ascending origin tier, and it would be much faster with the help of a natural mystery realm. But this kind of natural mystery realm did not appear randomly, but rather required a surge of source power from the heaven and earth, and only then could it be used by cultivators. This kind of source power was actually the concentrate of regulations. For example, the 9 heavens flame, to be frank, was a manifestation of regulations of the heaven and earth, and did not have much connection to the power of heaven and earth itself. Hearing Liao Kong's words, all those who were at the 8th lotus and 9th lotus were all extremely overjoyed. The 8th lotuses here had all reached the peak stage, and were about to step into the 9th lotus. They were just in need of the source power of heaven and earth to temper themselves. Then, let's set out immediately, Zishuang and the others all said, seeming to be in a great rush. That was because the surging of source power from the heaven and earth had a time limit. It was unknown how many more years they would have to wait once they missed it. Moreover, the volcanic eruption this time around having such great amounts of source power surging out did not mean that it would once again erupt many years later. This would all depend on luck. All right, Liao Kong nodded. Actually, he, too, wanted to go there as soon as possible. Everyone immediately set out. Liao Kong had come as commanded by a Heavenly Venerate, so he naturally had made some preparations. With a wave of his hand, a great river of the underworld appeared out of thin air, with only a single tiny raft floating in the river. "Please board the ship," Liao Kong said, and was the first to leap onto the raft. Everyone leaped over one after another. Liao Kong steered the ship, and the small raft instantly rode the winds and broke waves, being astonishingly fast. Moreover, the river was also continuously extending forwards. Merely a day later, the great river had reached its end, and the small raft stopped. They had already arrived at the foot of a great mountain, and the great mountain was presently gushing with lava. Black flames burned the skies, and it was as if the skies were about to melt. "This is Golden Cloud's mountain," Zishuang exclaimed in shock. "Even if we came via transference portal, we would need as long as 3 years' time. Yet now, in just a single day, they had arrived at their destination." Everyone all looked enviously at Liao Kong's hands. He had already stowed away that great river and tiny raft. "This is the treasure that Master has lent to me, and I will be returning it to Exalted Master later," Liao Kong said smilingly. As expected, only a Heavenly Venerate would have such heaven-defying ways. This was really too shocking. Everyone, the 2 lords Heavenly Venerates treat all the citizens of our realm equally. Thus, they did not consider this natural mystery realm as their private property. Hence, when we ascend the mountain, we will still encounter other cultivators, Liao Kong said seriously. To obtain the source power of heaven and earth, it is inevitable that there will be competition. The 2 lords Heavenly Venerates have expressed that they would definitely not interfere, and we would have to depend on ourselves for everything. Huaijian and the others all showed hints of pride in their expressions. Which of them was not a prodigy? Especially those disciples that had joined later, they were all monarch stars at the very least. So how could they possibly fear competition? Even if they encountered a 9th Lotus 3rd Leaf Elite, and were no match for the other party, they could still flee calmly. It would not progress to the point where they would lose their lives. Let's set out, then. Everyone was filled with anticipation. Though they had come to this kind of mystery realm, it was not definite whether they would be able to attain the mystical power of heaven and earth or not. All that would have to depend on their individual luck. Practically everyone acted alone. Resources were limited, so it was natural that they would all be going it alone. Meanwhile, Ling Han advanced up the mountain together with Hun Yo and the other women. Little Terror was still roughly the size of a puppy, and with bewitching Maiden Ro holding it in her arms, it looked completely like an adorable pet. The little guy was forced into submission under Ling Han's authority. This was a mountainous area that extended endlessly into the distance. That volcano that was presently bursting with lava was the main peak. It was rumored that there was supreme pressure there, and only an ancestral king would be able to reach the peak. Hence, there was no need to even think about climbing to the summit. The source power of heaven and earth was surging out together with the lava. If one could reach the summit and occupy the crater of the volcano, it would be much too easy to obtain the source power of heaven and earth. Heavenly Venerates naturally could do so, but did not choose to, naturally because they could not be bothered. If the disciples of a Heavenly Venerate did not even have this kind of competitive awareness, they had best scram earlier. The eruptions of the volcano had no pattern to them. At times, the lava would spurt towards the east. At other times, it would be directed north. Sometimes, it would gush very near, and at others, it would be spraying very far. Hence, it was needless to think of standing guard somewhere and wait. Shio, as the volcano erupted, a massive molten rock streaked through the skies and then fell towards Ling Han and the others. Pong! This was a gigantic rock and was still burning with fiery flames, but one could still see that this was a black rock filled with primal chaos. Fuck, a chaos source rock. Chapter 2359, Area of Madness. Chapter 2359, Area of Madness. Ling Han was stunned. The so-called source power of heaven and earth was actually chaos source rock. No wonder Small Tower had previously said that the chaos source rock could help it recover slightly. This was a treasure close to Celestial King tier. No, Celestial Kings were also using source power, which was only a level higher than regulations. This was a Celestial King tier resource, and it could be said that Celestial Kings were using Chaos Source Rock's one. However, though this Chaos Source Rock in front of him was massive, the essence contained within was actually not much. To speak more crudely, it contained too many impurities. Even a little bit is still good. Ling Han swept out with a palm strike, wanting to extinguish the flames on the rock, yet shockingly discovered that the flames merely flickered when his palm landed. He actually had not managed to extinguish the flames. Interesting, he commented, smiling. Let Nyo do it. Hun Yo was full of zest, and also waved out her small hand to extinguish the fire, but the flames merely waved and were completely unmoved. Who? The little girl then simply chose to puff up her cheeks and blow out, which caused Ling Han, the Empress, and bewitching Maiden Ro to break into laughter. Even Little Terror was baring its teeth, releasing a wolf-like howl. You are no wolf, so why are you howling like one? Hun Yo placed her hands on her hips, fuming. Little Terror expressed that it was very innocent. From birth, that was the way it called out. Ling Han channeled the power of regulation and pressed his hand down once more on the burning rock. An endless chill spread out, turning into layers of ice which wrapped around the rock. The flames were immediately controlled, but they were still flickering stubbornly, seeming like they were unwilling to go out no matter what. Ling Han increased the intensity of the power of regulation, and the flames were further repressed, but still were not extinguished. The source power of heaven and earth is indeed extraordinary. Ling Han nodded internally. No wonder this would be effective for the recovery of the Black Tower. It was indeed extraordinary. However, Small Tower has also said before that a Chaos Source Rock could only help it recover by a 10,000th, which was still endlessly far from the Heavenly Venerable tier. The source power of heaven and earth should be set between regulations and the essence of a Genesis world, the transition between the Celestial King tier and Heavenly Venerable tier. Ling Han continuously used his power to suppress it. Various regulations appeared one after another, and only then did he finally suppress the flames. He casually tossed the Chaos Source Rock over to bewitching Maiden Ro and said, "For you." "Me?" Bewitching Maiden Ro asked in surprise as she pointed at herself, appearing like she could not fathom this at all. At present, Everyone needed chaos source rocks, and, logically speaking, the priority of Ling Han, Hunyeo, and the Empress should be higher than her. Ling Han smiled. You have to quickly complete the tempering of the Immortal Palace tier, and we still have some slight room for improvement, so you can use it first. Both the Empress and Hunyeo nodded. They were not petty people. What more when Ling Han's words were reasonable? Bewitching Maiden Ro was touched. Though Ling Han had spoken the truth, Chaos Source Rocks would not expire even if they were not used. So how could it be that it could not be stored inside the Black Tower? She did not say anything further, and merely put away the Chaos Source Rock. Ling Han nodded and said, Your strength is indeed a weakness among us. You will only be a burden unless you advance into the Ascending Origin tier. When these words fell, Bewitching Maiden Ro was instantly outraged. Does this guy really not know how to speak sweet words in the slightest? Will you die if you comfort me a bit? I am going into the Black Tower to cultivate, she snapped. If she had enough strength, she would definitely beat Ling Han up. Ling Han laughed and drew Bewitching Maiden Ro into the Black Tower. They continued onwards. The volcano was constantly erupting, and because the direction of lava flow was indefinite, there was no way to trace its whereabouts. Hence, they could only collect the chaos source rocks that had been scattered in the area. This time, their luck was not that good, as they had not found any even after half a day. Initially, the mountain was green and grassy, but with the volcano wreaking havoc, there were holes and depressions everywhere. Some places were even filled with fiery flames, but ordinary fire could not last for too long either. The plants here all had astonishing vitality, and the flames soon went out by themselves. Do not underestimate this place. Ling Han flipped through the information that Liao Kong had given them before. It contained a detailed introduction of Golden Clouds Mountain. The outer circle here was very safe, but when one entered into the inner circle, it would become dangerous. That was because Golden Clouds Mountain by itself was already very amazing and had a strange effect on living beings. If one stayed for a long time here, his cultivation level would advance astonishingly quickly, but the side effect would be that his spiritual state would become extremely violent, and only the primitive instincts of slaughter would be left in the end. The native wild beasts here were all violent killing machines, and some cultivators who risked coming here tried to quickly grow, yet they were all swallowed by their own greed, and ultimately also became wild beasts in human form. Though the eruptions of the volcano had no pattern, the majority of substances erupted would be falling inside the inner circle. Hence, if they wanted to increase their harvest, they would have to enter deeply into Golden Clouds Mountain's premises. Let's climb the mountain, the Empress said. Hunyeo's expression was filled with excitement. Climb the mountain to hunt us some food? Ling Han nodded. Though this mountain was very bizarre, being capable of influencing the spiritual state, they were merely planning to stay here for around 1 or 2 months. This could not possibly turn them into wild beasts. They climbed the mountain, and there were increasingly less people around them. This was because everyone knew that there were mad wild beasts which would battle to death even if they were outmatched on the mountain, and if they encountered powerful beasts. It was definite that death would be the only outcome. Begging to be spared was useless. These wild beasts, or even wild men, only had the sole thought of slaughter, and even the disciples and descendants of Heavenly Venerates were worthless in their eyes. It was not just them. Even the wild beasts and wild men of the mountain were very interested in these chaos source rocks. As long as they were at the 9th lotus or had reached the peak stage of the 8th lotus, chaos source rocks would be beneficial for them, and desire for strength was their second instinct aside from desire to slaughter. Ling Han and the others soon encountered one such mad wild beast. It was a palm civet, but it was as long as 9 meters, with wings sprouting from its back. However, it was no longer snow-white or golden like holy beasts, but rather dark gray in color. Furthermore, it was battered and tattered, looking incredibly ugly. The moment this wild beast appeared, it pounced, releasing a mad barrage of bites, but in truth, it only had merely 8th Lotus 4th Leaf's battle prowess, and Ling Han defeated it just by stretching out a hand. Hunyeo immediately took out the barbecue grill while banging a knife as she cheered, "Meat! Meat! Meat!" Ling Han waved a hand. He was very interested in the reason why these wild beasts had gone mad. Theoretically, the regulation of darkness also had this effect, being capable of driving others into madness, but Ling Han had not sensed any strong regulation of darkness in this place. If it was said that this was the main reason for their madness, he would refuse to believe it. He examined closely and discovered that there was a grayish layer contained in the head of this wild beast, but he was completely unable to discern what exactly this was. Xiao, a streak of green light suddenly shot over. As it turned out, Wally had taken human form and was presently scanning it with his eyes. A substance that has never been seen before, Wally soon declared. Aren't you afraid that you would be discovered by a Heavenly Venerate by suddenly appearing like this? Ling Han asked. They won't. Wally appeared very confident in himself. Firstly, I have activated my concealment skill, and secondly, those two beings with vitality index over 15,000 points are only a form of spiritual wave. The chance of me being discovered is 0. Ling Han knew that this guy spoke in probability and odds. Since he had appeared, it was definitely fine. Ling Han had only been joking. Even you don't know what this is? Ling Han asked. Chapter 2360, Mysterious Substance. Chapter 2360, Mysterious Substance. According to my deductions, this should be a substance that is inclined towards the spirit, Wally said. He continued to scan that substance with green light. This was the second time. Ling Han was surprised. There is actually something in this world that you don't know. That is natural. Wally was very humble. Who knows how many realms there are in the Genesis world? I have only just ventured to a high-level dimension, and every realm has its own unique traits, though a considerable number of heaven and earth would be similar. Ling Han shook the palm civet in his grip. Can this thing be eaten? Would they also go mad if they consumed it? As long as you don't touch this thing, it will be fine, Wally said, pointing at the gray substance. Ling Han cracked a grin. Then, let's eat. They started a fire and roasted the meat, eating this palm civet. For better or worse, it was still at the 8th lotus, so its flesh was delicious. Furthermore, it contained an abundance of energy, which would be slightly beneficial for their cultivation. Finally, Ling Han carefully removed that layer of gray substance, planning to take it into the Black Tower, yet he suddenly discovered that he could not enter into the Black Tower. It was not like that scroll that could not be stowed in the Black Tower, but rather he himself had also been refused entry. This thing is extremely dangerous. Small Tower's voice rang out. It would very possibly corrode my consciousness and cause me to head towards destruction. What? Only now did Ling Han get a true shock. What was the Black Tower? A precious tool of a Heavenly Venerate. But Small Tower was actually wary of this gray thing as well, and was unwilling to take it in, which would be equivalent to taking poison. But what poison could kill the precious tool of a Heavenly Venerate? Clearly, Ling Han had underestimated how frightening this substance could be. What exactly is this thing? Even Wally doesn't know, and even Small Tower is afraid of it. Ling Han mumbled. The whole Golden Clouds mountain should be filled with this kind of substance, but even ordinary cultivators would not be affected as long as they did not get in contact with it for a long time. Why was this the case? The level of quality is too high, but because there is not enough quantity, the influence has decreased, he guessed. Right when Ling Han was pondering, he discovered that the gray substance was actually dispersing, and soon vanished completely. It cannot stay for long outside of a living creature, but I can feel that it has not truly vanished, but has rather been reassimilated into this place. Ling Han raised his head to look at the erupting volcano. What exactly is this place? Whatever place this was, since they were already here, they should naturally search high and low for chaos source rocks. Small Tower had previously set its eye on them, so they were clearly extremely valuable. They roamed around on the mountain and gradually went deeper and deeper. This was a very silent place, and even stepping on a leaf could produce a very loud sound. Sha, sha, sha. They walked onwards, yet suddenly stopped. Only a while later, light appeared ahead of them. This was a man of the angel race. It was Hong Huang. Hong Huang clearly had not expected he would encounter Ling Han here. Killing intent flashed across his face, but he immediately hid it. Releasing a humph, he strode off. Killing intent flashed across Ling Han's face as well. If it were not for the fact that he knew that the divine sense of two heavenly venerates were here and could sweep over at any time, he would definitely chase after and kill this guy. After witnessing Xue Ji's cruelty, Ling Han knew they were all the same, whether they were demon race, angel race, holy beasts, or insect race. He could not think that they were kind just because the angel race and holy beasts had not invaded the celestial realm. There will eventually be a chance, Ling Han thought. They continued walking on the mountain and would occasionally encounter berserk wild beasts, wild men, insect race members, and so on. Whatever they encountered, the latter was incredibly mad and existed only for the purpose of slaughter. Ling Han and his group could deal with most enemies. Little Terror was also an incredibly powerful existence, and it could offer some resistance even against a ninth Lotus third leaf opponent. Could it be that Ascending Origin tier has no pinnacle level? Ling Han asked Small Tower. Ascending Origin tier is the transition into Celestial King tier to convert the origin power in one's body into source power. There are 3 minor levels: Small Accomplishment, Great Accomplishment, and Consummate, and every time you complete tempering and compression, it means that you have advanced to the next minor level. Small Tower offered a very detailed explanation this time. 3 times later, the origin power should be completely converted to source power, reaching a consummate state. If you are unable to reach the consummate level even after 3 times, you will have to do it again. And if you consume some specific natural treasures, you may be able to reach the consummate level in a single stroke. Realization dawned on Ling Han. In other words, the 3 minor levels of Ascending Origin tier have no clear dividing line. In truth, it depends on the purity level of source power. By the time you reach 100%, that would be perfection. Hee hee. Small Tower laughed. This was its trademark mockery. Ling Han did not take it to heart. No wonder that no matter how strong an Ascending Origin tier was, they could not possibly compare to a Celestial King tier, because this cultivation level was only a transition, converting origin power into source power. In terms of height of regulations, they completely could not compare to Celestial Kings. Hence, they could not possibly reach or even surpass the level of Celestial Kings. However, as long as I advance to the Ascending Origin tier and use void particle energy to temper myself further, there is a chance that I can match Celestial King tier. He couldn't help but be filled with anticipation. To battle or even kill Celestial Kings as an Ascending Origin tier would have to be very shocking, right? Waha, here is another rock. Hunyo suddenly called out loudly in excitement. Another burning rock had indeed appeared ahead of them, but it was close to being extinguished. Clearly, this fire would not continuously burn. Instead, there was still a limit. Ling Han extinguished the flames and then stowed the rock into the Black Tower, in no rush to refine it. They continued traveling. They were not the only brave people in this deep mountainous area. There were other elites, such as the disciples from the Heavenly Venerate Yellow Springs line, but this Heavenly Venerate was different from the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity. He did not have the habit of taking disciples widely, but rather only had a mere 3. Aside from Liao Kong, the others were actually the Heavenly Venerate Yellow Springs' first disciple, second disciple, or his grand disciples. Ling Han and his group battled with wild beasts and battled with others as well. 2 months' time passed in the blink of an eye. They retreated from the mountainous area first to prevent their consciousness from being affected, as it had turned them bloodthirsty and hungering for slaughter. Even Small Tower was wary of that substance, so Ling Han no longer had the confidence that he could duck inside the Black Tower and hide. They arrived outside the mountainous area. While waiting for the grayish substance in their bodies to slowly disappear, they began cultivating with the Chaos Source rocks. This time, they had collected a total of 17 Chaos Source rocks, which differed in size. The largest was as big as a grindstone, but the smallest was only the size of a fist. However, size was not the only basis for judging the quality of a Chaos Source rock. The purity level of the source power within was another factor. Some rocks, while being large in size, did not contain much source power and couldn't compare to even a fist-sized rock. "The volcano has stopped erupting," someone suddenly exclaimed. Ling Han and the others raised their heads and looked upwards. Indeed, the volcano that had been constantly erupting had already stopped, no longer gushing flames and lava outwards. In their place, there were multiple black clouds that were incredibly dense and soaring skywards. This naturally led to another tsunami wave of entering into the mountainous area to contend for resources because there would no longer be any outpour of chaos source rocks, so every single one collected meant one less. Ling Han did not enter the mountain again. He checked himself, and there was actually not much of the grayish substance left. It was slightly influencing his emotions. Thankfully, after exiting the mountainous area, this kind of substance was also slowly decreasing. But if he climbed the mountain now, that would merely be courting death. Chapter 2361. Ascending Origin Tier. Chapter 2361. Ascending Origin Tier. A few months later, the contest on Golden Clouds Mountain finally came to an end. Everyone left. Liao Kong had been responsible for taking them here, but definitely did not have the leisure and time to take them all back. In any case, it was just a few years' journey, so they could just travel at their own pace. Ling Han was in no rush to leave, but rather decided to stay for a while longer. He was extremely curious about this mountain. What exactly was that gray substance that it could drive living beings mad, and even the precious tool of a Heavenly Venerate would be wary of it? Was it also at the Heavenly Venerable tier? The gray substance inside his body had already dispersed completely. Thus, he went into the mountainous area again, and only left when he felt that he was close to madness. Another 5 months later, Ling Han returned to normal. "You are playing with fire," Wally said. "Though this kind of mysterious substance would disperse, its effects on you are permanent. I can be certain that you will not be able to come back out again if you enter a few more times." Only now did Ling Han get a terrifying shock. He had not thought it would actually be so dangerous. He thought for a while, and decided that he should set this matter aside first. After he had advanced into the Celestial King tier, he would take another look at the summit. He was a curious person. Without getting to the bottom of this, he would not be able to rest easy. Ling Han, Hu Niu, and the Empress embarked on a journey to return to divine Desolate Mountain. On their way, the two women would occasionally cultivate with the chaos source rocks in their arms. They had both cultivated the greatest eternity, everlasting physique. They themselves could turn into the flow of time, and there was no need at all for them to use the time cultivation chamber. But even if they were all monarch stars, and had already reached the peak stage of the immortal palace tier at that, converting and forming the first bit of source power was as difficult as ascending the heavens. It was the same even for Ling Han. This required accumulation of energy over an extended period of time, but just how long had they been at this level? Cultivating to the late stage would require accumulation of energy over a long time, especially when it was advancing to the next major tier. That could not be rushed at all. However, the three of them, including Bewitching Maiden Ro, had cultivated a time celestial physique, though Bewitching Maiden Rose was slightly weaker. A year passed in the outside world, but they had already been cultivating for 100, even 1,000 years. 4 years later, they returned to divine Desolate Mountain. It had taken a year longer than they had planned. That was because they made several stops on the way, which affected their speed. This time, because Ling Han had cultivated the secret technique of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity, he was no longer affected by the mist and easily ascended the mountain. They had not thought that they were actually not the last batch to return. Shuegu, Jing Zhongyue, Huaijian, and the others were still on their way. Out of the 5 newly joined disciples, only Ling Han and Su Xing had returned. Ling Han was not concerned about the matters of others. He continued to cultivate while he looked for a chance to save another batch of humans. 9 days later, Shuegu returned, but it caused a considerable commotion. Not only had he advanced into the 9th lotus, he had even reached the height of 2nd leaf at that. This was too shocking. How could it possibly be so fast? Wasn't cultivation level slowly tempered bit by bit? Only afterwards did Ling Han find out that Xue Ji's race enjoyed devouring the blood essence of living creatures, which they would usually store up in their bodies, and after breaking through to the ninth lotus, that blood essence would be dissolved, turning into waves of energy and helping them to spike their cultivation levels. There was only a one-time opportunity. However, those with weaker natural talent would only be able to advance from the early stage of the ninth lotus first leaf to the middle stage at most, but Xuegu was much more impressive. In a single stroke, he had charged up to second leaf, which was chillingly powerful. As expected of a supreme monarch star whose evolution index was close to or had even reached 11. This burst was really too terrifying. The first thing that Xuegu did upon his return was to issue a challenge to Ling Han. He had held back for too long. Previously, Ling Han had punched him in the face for no rhyme or reason, yet no one had stood up for him, so he had repressed his anger. The fact that he was able to rush up to such a high cultivation level was because he really held too much resentment in his heart, which turned into powerful motivation for him. Otherwise, the explosion of blood essence was extremely painful, so he would have long since given up. Ling Han considered for a while and agreed to a spar with him, setting the time for 10 days later. He had the confidence that he could advance into the ascending origin tier within 10 days' time, but even if he had reached small accomplishment level of the ascending origin tier, it would be very hard for him to match Xuegu. Ascending origin tier aside, the latter was also a supreme monarch star, and his heaven-defying trait was not inferior to Ling Han in any way. However, Ling Han could still extract void particle energy. Once the upper limits to ascending origin tier was lifted, just what kind of height would he be able to reach? Consummate level of the ascending origin tier? Or even stronger? He was very expectant. Xuegu had no disagreement about this either. 10 days, time was too short. Even with time acceleration effects, it would be no more than some 30 years. At most, Ling Han would be able to complete the breakthrough to ninth lotus, but compared with him, there was still a very wide gap. It should be known that the extreme burst after advancing into ninth lotus was the unique ability of their race. He was certain and confident that he would cripple Ling Han. 3 days later, Jing Zhongyue also returned. She had successfully advanced into ninth lotus and had reached the middle stage ninth lotus first leaf at that. Though she could not compare to Xuegu, it was still very shocking. Clearly, she had also encountered an amazing fated opportunity. Another 2 days later, Huai Jian returned. His cultivation level had also improved greatly, reaching the late stage of the ninth lotus first leaf. Apparently, he had obtained a great fortune on Golden Clouds Mountain and obtained a chaos source rock with an astonishing purity level. But neither of them could compare to Xuegu. Previously, the 5 Supreme Monarch Star were practically on equal levels with one another, yet now there was a clear difference among them. Xuegu had left them all behind in the dust, and the cultivation level of Ling Han, who had previously been strongest, was now the lowest, but no one dared to underestimate him. After all, this guy's body art was heaven-defyingly strong, and Ling Han was still burying himself in cultivation. He left his quarters, but was still on the divine Desolate mountain. This mountain was really too extensive and wide. An earth-shaking change was presently happening inside his body. He now knew why it was so difficult to condense source power. To use an analogy, origin power was in gaseous form, while source power was in liquid form. What he had to do was to liquefy origin power. In this process, the intensity of origin power would increase many times over, and a drop of source power would be able to explode with terrifying power. However, it was similarly extraordinarily difficult to compress origin power. In a moment of carelessness, he could explode himself into bits first. After thousands of failed attempts, Ling Han finally gained some certainty. Hong, long, origin power roared. It naturally was not willing to be compressed and erased, and was filled with resistance. Yet Ling Han ignored it. After strongly suppressing it, bit after bit of origin power was compressed together, reaching the extent of 100,000 bits. Ordinarily speaking, 10,000 bits of origin power was enough to be compressed into a drop of source power, But Ling Han was ambitious. If 100,000 bits of origin power were compressed together, he would be able to take a very big step in the ascending origin tier. He compressed it to his best efforts. Originally, origin power had no form, but being compressed under 100,000-fold, it was forcefully turned into mist. If he went another step further, the mist could condense into liquid. Ling Han roared internally. Wang, the mist condensed completely, and a single drop of liquid is formed quietly. Source power was condensed. The ascending origin tier. Ling Han's eyes suddenly snapped open, instantly releasing an astonishing light, as if his gaze could penetrate thorug the heaven and earth. Quang, thunderclouds gathered densely in the skies. The heavenly tribulation was here. Though he had only condensed his first drop of source power, taking this step meant a qualitative change, allowing him to advance into a new level. With a battle cry, he roared at the skies in fury, unafraid of the heavenly tribulation. Come on then. He took out that scroll that could not be opened and channeled Wally's unique cultivation technique, extracting the power from within. Instantly, an even more frightening might of tribulation surged out. Ling Han stopped while he was ahead and extracted a bit of power to temper himself. He stopped immediately. Once his ascending origin tier heavenly tribulation became a heavenly venerable tier heavenly tribulation, he would definitely be dead. Chapter 2362, Beaten Until Bursting. Chapter 2362, Beaten Until Bursting. Once Ling Han advanced into the ascending origin tier, his vitality index would spike and unlock his room for evolution. Void particle energy could temper the body, and his physical power began to soar. The advancement of cultivation level should be very, very slow. It was the process of cooking soup over a slow fire. However, void particle energy was the essence energy of a Genesis world, far surpassing the height of regulations. If this was used to temper a ninth lotus being, the effects would naturally be spectacular. Ling Han's physical power began to soar. It had initially only been comparable to the early stage of consummate level of the ascending origin tier, yet it now leaped all the way to the middle stage, and the rate of advancement showed no signs of slowing down, either. Crack, crack, crack. Thunderclouds spread out densely, bolts of lightning striking madly, turning into multiple giants of lightning as they launched a mad barrage on Ling Han. But for someone with Ling Han's physique, this was completely negligible. Under the tempering of void particle energy, Ling Han's indestructible heaven scroll also released a greater might, increasing the toughness of his physique. As Ling Han battled the heavenly tribulation fiercely, he roamed at the edge of the cliff, continuously absorbing void particle energy and increasing his physical power and improving physique. A day later, the heavenly tribulation had passed, but the thunderclouds had still not dispersed. They were still occasionally building up and dissolving. This was because Ling Han was still using void particle energy to strengthen himself. The level of this energy was too high. Every once in a while, Ling Han's strength would increase a bit, and it was a practically visible rate. It was really too fast. When the deadline of 10 days arrived, only then did he stop with slight dissatisfaction. He was engrossed in the enjoyment of increasing his strength, and to suddenly stop now made him feel a slight dejection. My present body art should have surpassed the peak stage of consummate level of the ascending origin tier. Ling Han deduced internally. According to Wally's vitality index, I should be around 4,300 points or so, but there is still some distance from 5,000 points. If one's vitality index reached 5,000, they would be a celestial king. Ling Han returned and did not go to his quarters, but rather headed directly to Sword Manifestation Peak. This was the highest and steepest mountain of divine desolate mountains. From afar, it looked like a solitary sword that was stabbing into the clouds. Ling Han strode forwards, getting faster and faster. He did not use the slightest bit of power of regulation, but as he stepped out, he naturally surged with frightening power of regulation. Space seemed to have been forcefully compressed, and every step he took was equivalent to a boundless distance. Pong, pong, pong. He barged all the way over, without stopping at all. All the mountain rocks that blocked his way were crushed into dust. Ling Han released a battle cry, his voice ringing out like a heavy hammer, so resounding that bits of rocks were bouncing in the mountains before they, too, were shattered. He ascended Sword Manifestation Peak, and after traveling quickly for a long while, his steps finally slowed down as he strolled casually like a normal person. About an hour later, Ling Han arrived at the summit. There was a massive platform here. Initially, this had been a sharp summit, but it had been sliced off. It should be a deliberate move, so it could be used for battle. A considerable number of people were already standing around the platform. The Empress and the other women, with little terror still curled up in bewitching Maiden Rose arms, Huaijian, Jing Zhongyue, Zishuang, and the others. Practically all the disciples that had reached Ninth Lotus had arrived. Shuegu was very anxious to get his revenge, so it was natural that he had arrived much earlier. He still maintained the image of a bald man of great build. His arms were crossed behind his back, and as the mountain breeze blew, the robes he wore rustled loudly. "You are quite late," he declared coldly. Ling Han grinned. "So eager to be beaten?" "Ha." Shuegu laughed drily, yet his laughter held no amusement. "Could it be that you still do not know my current cultivation level?" A lotus flower bloomed on his forehead, possessing 9 petals and 2 leaves that were as black as ink. "I am a 9th lotus second leaf. What about you?" Now that they had confirmed Xue Ji's cultivation level was truly 9th lotus second leaf, those like Feng Haoan and Si Huangyan all had grim expressions. In terms of cultivation level, they had already been surpassed by this young junior brother. Ling Han smiled calmly, and a lotus flower similarly appeared on his forehead. It also had 9 petals, but only held a single leaf, and this leaf was extremely blurry at that, almost unformed. Huaijian and the others were naturally clear. Ling Han had indeed had some improvement, advancing into the 9th lotus, but only had the cultivation level of the early stage of the 9th lotus first leaf. In fact, it was the early stage of the early stage at that. The gap in cultivation level was clear to see. Previously, they were at the same starting line, but now Xue Ji's leading advantage was already incredibly apparent. "I can still beat you till you burst," Ling Han said. "What wild boasting!" Shuegu smirked coldly. He knew that Ling Han's body art was amazing, with battle prowess reaching peak stage 9th lotus second leaf, or even 9th lotus third leaf. But Shuegu? He was a supreme monarch star, with battle prowess directly soaring to the late stage, or even peak stage of the 9th lotus third leaf. "Bah, you have been too arrogant. I will definitely make you return what you owe me." Xiao, his figure charged out, as fast as lightning. Ling Han was calm, casually shooting out a punch. Pung, pung, pung. He seemed to be neither too fast nor too slow, yet every punch just happened to block Xue Ji's attacks, and he did not fall into the slightest bit of disadvantage. What? Everyone watched, their eyes wide with shock. How could this be? They were both supreme monarch stars. In that case, as long as one had an advantage in cultivation level, they would definitely be able to obtain victory in battle. Ling Han released a battle cry, lightning wrapping around his fists. This was something that he had come up with by fusing regulations and body art together, unleashing an even more terrifying destructive power. His movements were wide and obvious, the black lotus flower on his forehead swaying, as if it had come to life. This time, Ling Han had absolutely no interest in playing with Shuegu move by move. The moment he started, it was his full battle prowess unleashed, suppressing Shuegu completely. Everyone could not speak. Ling Han's strength was inconceivable to them. He had clearly just advanced into the 9th lotus, yet his battle prowess had reached the peak stage of the 9th lotus third leaf, and was in fact just that bit stronger, even. In that case, when he reached the 9th lotus third leaf, wouldn't he be able to clash even with an ancestral king? Shuegu roared in fury. His expression was filled with disbelief. He had obtained such amazing improvement in a single stroke, yet was still no match for Ling Han. Furthermore, he had always been brimming with confidence, thinking that he could win easily and vent his fury. Who would have expected that reality was completely contrary to his expectations? He took his original form, a mere blood insect that was less than a foot long. Shio, shio, shio. It was like he was flying with how amazingly fast he bounced as he attempted to break through the limit of what Ling Han could trace visually with his movements. However, this was all completely wasted effort. By now, Ling Han could battle with his body art, his movements keeping on track with his wishes. There was no need for him to draw on regulations at all, so the speed of his attack would be just that bit faster than that of an opponent of the same cultivation level. Though it was just a slight bit, could a monarch star afford this minor gap? Pong! Ling Han's punch landed on the blood insect. Though the target's surface was small, the power of his fist was too overbearing, forcefully pummeling the blood insect and causing to throw up a mist of blood. Shuage was in so much pain that he released an incredibly agonizing wave through his divine sense. Ling Han did not quit while he was ahead. Who asked this guy to provoke him? If this was not divine Desolate Mountain, he would definitely deal a fatal blow and directly erase this damn insect. Enough, enough. Everyone hurriedly approached to mediate. Ling Han shot a few more punches, and only then did he stop. After stopping the fight, when everyone looked towards Ling Han, their gazes were completely different. This was a strong rival that they could not just circle around. With Ling Han there, a large portion of any future cultivation resources would definitely be going to him. Meanwhile, Zishuang was very regretful. If she had known, she would have formed an alliance with Ling Han. Now, if she spoke of this matter, it would be Ling Han who was stronger, and she would be the weaker party, so she would definitely have to make great sacrifices should they discuss conditions. Chapter 2363, You are? Chapter 2363, You are? Ling Han and the women returned, but the four of them very soon left their quarters together again. Hunyo, the Empress, and bewitching Maiden Ro were about to break through. In the remote wilderness of the mountains, the three women broke through respectively, while Ling Han continued to extract the void particle energy from within that scroll, pushing his physical power further upwards. A day later, the three women had completed their breakthrough one after another and advanced into the ascending origin tier. They were now one step closer to the Celestial King tier. They were in no rush to return. Ling Han had the three women continue attempting to absorb the energy inside the mysterious scroll, but they had not truly come into contact with the power of heaven and earth yet, and even with Wally's cultivation technique, they still did not have the slightest idea how to go about it. It was just like an artist that had never seen a tiger before. No matter how the tiger's appearance was described to him, there was no way he could draw a lifelike tiger. Ling Han could only sigh in pity, but it was fine. As long as the three women could become ninth heaven celestial kings, there was still a chance that they could absorb the essence energy of the Genesis world, thus stepping into the ranks of Heavenly Venerates. Both Hunyo and the Empress would definitely become ninth heaven celestial kings, but it was not so certain for bewitching Maiden Ro. However, Ling Han had no plans to turn her into their main contributor of battle prowess either. In a flash, 13 years had already passed. Ling Han continued to use void particle energy to temper himself, already cultivating his body arts to the pinnacle of this cultivation level. According to Wally, his present vitality index was 4,424 points, already exceeding the third leaf of the ninth lotus by a great amount. And after waiting for so many years, the commotion that rose up from kidnapping the human slaves finally quieted down. The two ancestral kings returned once more to their usual routines and did not continue to stand guard day after day, night after night. Ling Han found another chance. When that sliver of divine sense of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity left once more, which he even confirmed with Wally, he immediately executed his operations. This time, he was even stronger, so the speed at which he kidnapped them was naturally faster. After merely over an hour, he had taken all the humans into the Black Tower without alerting anyone. He returned casually. However, when he had traveled halfway, he suddenly discovered a white figure had appeared ahead of him. This was a person, but his features and even build could not be discerned at all. He was clearly just standing right there, so this was extremely bizarre. He should be an elite. Could it be that his previous actions had been witnessed by this person? Yet why had he waited here for Ling Han, then? Young man, you are very brave, this figure said. I don't know what you are talking about. Ling Han's heart steadied. As long as Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was not here, there was no one that could discover the Black Tower inside his body, so they naturally would not be able to catch him red-handed. A thief had to be caught in the act. Ling Han could completely push the blame off of himself and deny everything. The white figure laughed loudly, and after laughing for a very long while, he finally said, "Young man, why have you kidnapped so many humans?" Ling Han's heart clenched, but he showed nothing in his expression as he replied, "I don't know what nonsense you are blabbering. I saw you take those humans into your spatial god tool with my very own eyes. Don't say that I saw wrong. That is impossible," the white figure said. Instantly, killing intent rose up in Ling Han's heart. In the first place, he was enemies with the foreign realm. Since this person had discovered his secret, the only option was to kill him. Shio, Ling Han charged out, summoning the divine demon sword directly. He delivered a sword strike, but it was soundless and negligible, not releasing the slightest bit of light, but accompanied by his astonishing physical power, it could unleash a terrifying destructive power. The sword strike swept out, and Ling Han passed through the white figure. With how sharp the divine demon sword was, it actually did not cause the slightest bit of damage. You are indeed a very lucky brat to actually have gained a celestial tool. The white figure appeared slightly surprised. Yet Ling Han was even more stunned. The other party said, "Celestial tool," and not ancestral weapon. What did this signify? Devouring metal, right? The white figure laughed. This kind of divine metal has a strong ability to grow, and divine metal is not its strongest. In the future, it could be forged into a Heavenly Venerable tier tool. What astonishing insight! Ling Han was shocked. Could it be that the precious tools of Heavenly Venerates were all forged from devouring metal? Otherwise, divine metal would be the final result. How would they find a material that was even stronger than divine metal? No need to be nervous. No need to be nervous. If I bore malicious intentions towards you, how could I possibly be speaking with you here? The white figure laughed and actually turned around to comfort Ling Han. However, his next words caused Ling Han to break out in a cold sweat. You come from the celestial realm, right? Ling Han's first reaction was to activate the Black Tower and then flee immediately with the three women, but something instinctively told him that he should not be so rash. Though this person's features were hidden, he possessed an intimidatingly strong aura. If this kind of being had wanted to target him, he would not have given him the chance to activate the Black Tower at all. He would have long since attacked. Who are you, senior? Ling Han did not admit nor deny it. The white figure laughed, and then sighed slowly as he said, Like you, I, too, come from the celestial realm. Ling Han's heart trembled as he asked, could it be that senior is one of the earliest people to be brought into the foreign realm? Something like that, the white figure replied, his voice slightly bleak. Ling Han was shocked. Then the other had surely been in the foreign realm for a considerable number of epochs by now. He had to have had a very difficult time. Tell me, brat, why have you come here? The white figure asked. Ling Han's thoughts raced. There was definitely no way he could be so trusting. This person did not even show his face, and he was supposed to believe him? However, intuition told him that he should speak the truth. Firstly, the other had indeed discerned his true identity, so there already would not be much meaning if Ling Han planned to deceive him by saying he was a guest from the celestial realm. He considered for a moment, and only then related how he had been compelled by the Heavenly Venerates of the celestial realm, and thus could only flee to the foreign realm. After the white figure heard this, he sank into silence, and after a long while, he finally said, Jiawu in sealed emotion, they are indeed still as cold and heartless as they had been. For the sake of their own transcendence, they have already abandoned everything. Ling Han's heart throbbed wildly. Hearing the tone that the white figure spoke in, He seemed to be on the same level as Juwu Heavenly Venerate and Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable. A Heavenly Venerate of the Celestial Realm? He suddenly startled. This guy couldn't be the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, right? Everyone said that the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable had faced off against 9 Heavenly Venerates on his own, resisting the 9 Heavenly Venerates of the foreign realm, and had even used his own body to crash into the connecting point of the two realms in his state of severe injury, granting peace to the celestial realm for a considerable number of epochs. However, what if this guy had not died, and had even been captured and brought here by the Heavenly Venerates of the foreign realm? No. If he was really the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, how could he stand here completely nonchalant like this? Dare I ask for Senior's title? Ling Han asked cautiously, though he was filled with anticipation. A good many epochs ago, I did indeed have a title, and that was Wu Lu. The white figure laughed, but Ling Han could discern the bitterness in his laughter. After he finished laughing, he paused and repeated, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. Pooh! Ling Han instantly spluttered. This white figure was actually a Heavenly Venerate, and a Heavenly Venerate of the Celestial Realm at that? This was completely illogical. Come, I will relate the exact details of the matter to you. I, too, need your help in this matter, or I would not have taken such a great risk to meet you, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu said. If you cannot accomplish this task, the Celestial Realm will really be done for. Chapter 2364, A Unique Power. Chapter 2364, A Unique Power. Fuck, so serious. Ling Han grimaced and said, Senior, this junior has just advanced to the ascending origin tier, and has very fragile shoulders still. I fear I cannot shoulder such heavy responsibility. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu shook his head. Young man, you still do not know the seriousness of this matter. He sighed and continued, over a dozen epochs ago, the foreign realm invaded, and Juwu, Sealed Emotion, Green Flames, and I worked together to battle the foreign realm Heavenly Venerates, but close to the end, those 3 selfish guys were actually persuaded by the beings of the foreign realm and joined an alliance with the foreign realm for the sake of transcendence. What is transcendence? Ling Han was curious. Wu Lu was speechless. What time was it now? And what this brat was concerned about was actually such trivial matters. However, looking at the curious expression on Ling Han's face, he knew that it was best for him to satisfy this guy's curiosity first. Otherwise, the latter would be completely absent-minded. Firstly, do you know how Heavenly Venerate tier surpasses regulations? He asked instead. This question was huge, and probably only those rare few people in this entire world could actually answer this question. However, Ling Han was precisely one of them. Because he had once been the overlord of a realm, and had also obtained Wally's models and formulae, he knew how to extract the power of heaven and earth. By extracting the essence power of heaven and earth to nurture oneself, and turning it into the source of motivation instead of drawing on regulations, Ling Han answered. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu appeared slightly surprised. Though he had asked this question, he had not thought a mere ascending origin tier would be capable of answering. He faltered slightly, and only then continued, though your understanding cannot be considered completely correct, it is not too far off, either. However, every realm would have a unique power. This is the precondition for the emergence of a realm, and for a Heavenly Venerate to ascend Tao, what they could grasp would definitely be this kind of unique power. Once they leave this realm, their power will slowly dry up, and they will leap down from the Heavenly Venerate tier. Ling Han was surprised. Wally had not mentioned this to him before. He nodded. This is just like how an ordinary person whose body would slowly weaken when he has lost the replenishment of energy through food. This is a very realistic analogy. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu nodded. However, Heavenly Venerate tier is too strong. This process would be endlessly long, but no matter how long it is, as long as he still relies on this kind of power, it is inevitable. Heavenly Venerate tier is like a tree which still needs to be rooted in its own realm, and they are closely linked. Ling Han was confused and asked, since that is the case, shouldn't Juwu Heavenly Venerate and the others have a larger reason to protect the celestial realm? If the celestial realm was destroyed, the unique power of the celestial realm would disappear. How would the Jiwu Heavenly Venerate, Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerate, and Green Flames Heavenly Venerate continue to rule the world? Though Heavenly Venerate tier is synonym for the strongest, there are actually still differences in strength and level among Heavenly Venerates, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu said slowly. Ling Han knew this because the vitality index of a Heavenly Venerate should be 15,000 points, but Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was close to 16,000 points, which even Wally thought was terrifying. Dare I ask, Senior, how many levels are there in Heavenly Venerate tier? He asked. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu shook his head. I don't know either. Ling Han couldn't help but feel speechless, thinking that this Heavenly Venerate was really quite humorous. I have only ventured to the two realms of Celestial Realm and Foreign Realm, but as far as I know, there are a great many other realms, which contain countless powerful beings, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu said. Next, these are all my deductions. Grasping the unique power of a realm should be the first step for a Heavenly Venerate. But aside from this kind of power, there are still other powers in the realm, and this is what makes up the foundations of the entire realm. That unique power can only be considered the unique trait of a realm. Further grasping another basic power should be the second tier of a Heavenly Venerate. And once they took this second step, a Heavenly Venerate would be able to truly transcend, no longer trapped in their own realm, and could be powerful and lofty in any other realm as well. Ling Han nodded. Aside from that unique power, other powers would be universal. Then, it was natural that they would extract the power of heaven and earth of any realm they ventured to. There was no need to worry that they would dry up one day. The agreement that Jiwu and the others reached with the foreign realm is that when the celestial realm is devoured, the Heavenly Venerates will be able to extract the core power of the celestial realm together, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu explained. There are only two methods to absorb this kind of power. Firstly, when the realm first comes into being, and everything is still in its beginning state, these powers would be exposed. However, when a realm first comes into being, there is no living being that can reach the height of Heavenly Venerate tier, so it naturally could not be done. Secondly, when a realm is destroyed, Ling Han's body shook, and he asked, those three Heavenly Venerates would destroy the entire celestial realm for the sake of their own transcendence. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu sighed. Previously, it was because of this that we split ways. People who walk different paths cannot make plans together. It was not just him. There was also the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerate who came later. He had also met the incoming invasion of the foreign realm Heavenly Venerates on his own, and in the end had no choice but to fuse himself with Heavenly Tao, damaging the connecting point of the two realms. Otherwise, the celestial realm probably would have long since ceased existing. A thought sparked in Ling Han's mind. Then now, if the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity takes another step further, he would become a second-tier Heavenly Venerate? The old geezer's vitality index was close to 16,000 points, and once he reached that, wouldn't he then become a second-tier Heavenly Venerate? Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu shook his head. That is impossible, but if he refined me completely, he would be able to obtain that unique power of the celestial realm, and would then be able to penetrate deeply into the celestial realm, committing mass slaughter. The strength of a realm was not based on one or two elites, but rather countless living beings. If the foreign realm wanted to devour the celestial realm, it was very simple to accomplish, and that was by eliminating a great majority of the living creatures there. In that case, the heaven and earth would be severely damaged, and would become incredibly weak, and thus easily devoured and fused. If the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was no longer restrained by the power of heaven and earth of the celestial real mirror, at least not so serious lie would be able to commit mass slaughter. In any case, those three Heavenly Venerates of the celestial realm would not move to stop him. He alone could kill most beings of the celestial realm. By then, it would be doomsday for the celestial realm. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had said that it was a very serious matter. Clearly, he had not been deliberately exaggerating. Yet Ling Han was stunned as he asked, Senior, you wish to be refined by the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity? Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu nodded. In the past, I faced off against multiple enemies all on my own, shattering the connecting point of the two realms even if it meant my death. I have indeed succeeded, but I am also severely wounded, and was thus captured by the foreign realm. Desolate eternity is one of the most powerful even among the heavenly venerates of the foreign realm. He has great ambitions and superior intelligence. He wants to refine me to gain the power of heaven and earth within me. If he succeeds, he will be able to cultivate the first tier to the consummate level, and will no longer fear the restrictions of the celestial realm. Ling Han nodded. Having grasped that unique power of the celestial realm, the heavenly venerate Desolate Eternity would be equivalent to a being of the celestial realm himself. Though a heavenly venerate would still be targeted by the heaven and earth, the situation would be completely different from having a foreign realm heavenly venerate invade. Being capable of becoming a heavenly venerate, which of us is not a supreme prodigy, a supreme elite? Desolate Eternity wishes to refine me, and this is a double-edged sword. It is also possible that I could turn the tables on him and refine him instead, Heavenly Venerate Wulu said. But with the restraints of this realm, I can just barely preserve myself and prevent Desolate Eternity from succeeding. However, after resisting for so long, my power is already becoming weaker and weaker, and I am close to losing out. It was because Heavenly Venerate Wulu had only walked the first step. After leaving the celestial realm, he was no longer able to extract that unique power, and it was certain that he would become increasingly weaker, especially when he still had to contend with an elite like Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity. Chapter 2365, I Am. Chapter 2365, I Am. It could be said that it was already a miracle itself that Heavenly Venerate Wulu had been able to last so long. It had already been over a dozen epochs. Ling Han was incredibly impressed and bowed towards Heavenly Venerate Wulu. Senior is virtuous and honorable. This junior is impressed. If Heavenly Venerate Wulu had not made sacrifices over a dozen epochs ago, would he still have existed? To say nothing of him, even the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable could not have possibly appeared, either. History would have long since been rewritten. Yet Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's demeanor was solemn. I can't last for much longer, so you must return to the celestial realm at the first opportunity and ask a ninth heaven celestial king to interfere and disturb Desolate Eternity. Adding cooperation from my side, we will definitely be able to ruin his plans. Ling Han couldn't help but grimace. This junior cannot return to the celestial realm because an energy storm has presently filled the connecting point of the two realms. What? Heavenly Venerate Wulu couldn't help but exclaim. Ling Han added some details to how he had fled from the celestial realm. Previously, he had only mentioned that he had been forced to flee, but had not described how he had fled. The Heavenly Venerate Wulu could not speak. Ling Han was merely at the ascending origin tier. Even if Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was caught completely off guard, Ling Han could not possibly get within 300 meters of him. He would be destroyed by the might of Heavenly Venerable tier long before that. Could it be that this was the only outcome? He was merely a spiritual mark and did not have any power at all. Furthermore, he had just barely extracted this spiritual mark while he was clashing with the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity with his full efforts. Moreover, he could only manifest occasionally for just a short while. He just happened to catch sight of how Ling Han kidnapped the human slaves, and had thus become curious about him. He observed attentively, and when he discovered Ling Han's similar actions a second time, he took the risk to appear and test the waters. If this matter was known to the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity, Heavenly Venerate Wulu would definitely be suppressed even harsher, and it would not be possible any longer for him to send out a sliver of divine sense. Yet Ling Han could not return to the celestial realm, and this sliver of divine sense of Wulu had no battle prowess at all. Then, weren't they completely helpless? Even if he was a heavenly venerate, he couldn't help but feel hopeless. Ling Han gritted his teeth. I may have a way. He decided to go all out and use the final bit of power of the Black Tower. Otherwise, if the celestial realm was destroyed, he and the women would only be islands without roots, completely left without anyone to rely on. When he thought he had ruined the plans of Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity, the old geezer turned out to be using a smokescreen. He talked about how he was researching a way to make it so that beings of the foreign realm needed not fear being targeted by the power of heaven and earth of the celestial realm, but was actually only referring to himself. Once he succeeded, he would only enter the celestial realm alone, and he would definitely obtain profits that the other Heavenly Venerates wouldn't even be able to dream of. Ling Han was certain that all the Heavenly Venerates were united on the matter of invading the celestial realm, but to say that they were all close and intimate friends? Ling Han would never believe that. This was practically a humongous joke. There were greater things at stake, and Ling Han had made his decision, which could not be wavered. You? Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu shook his head. He was not underestimating Ling Han, but what could a mere ascending origin tier do? I have a precious Heavenly Venerable tier tool, and when I activate it, I can unleash pseudo-Heavenly Venerable tier battle prowess. Ling Han revealed his trump card. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu couldn't help but feel surprised. You actually have such good fortune, brat? The precious tool of a Heavenly Venerate plus the Divine Demon Sword that was still at the level of a celestial tool. Who knew? They might become two precious Heavenly Venerable tier tools in the future. He began pondering, and he finally nodded after a while. This could be possible. We have to plan carefully. The senior and junior did not immediately begin, because the divine sense of the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu could not manifest for too long. If the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity discovered that the other party still had the slightest sliver of mobility, their plans would all come to nothing. And Ling Han could not stay here too long either. The matter of great number of humans once again disappearing would be exposed soon, and he had to quickly return to his quarters. However, he now knew that the absence of these humans could not cause any problem to the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity. He was only using these humans as a cover whose purpose was to conceal the existence of Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. When Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had been severely wounded, it had to be that his body just happened to be refined by Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity, and it was not known to the other foreign realm Heavenly Venerates. Otherwise, Heavenly Venerate corpse would definitely be scrambled over madly by the Heavenly Venerates. Even if Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was even stronger, he would only be able to obtain just that slight bit more, obtaining a leg, an arm, or something of the sort. Ling Han returned to his quarters and did not inform the three women of this matter so that they would not worry. He only told them to make preparations as they would be leaving here at any time. Of course, there was also Wally. The knowledge that this guy possessed was really too useful. A great number of human slaves had once again disappeared. Divine Desolate Mountain naturally exploded at this. What brazen criminal actually dared to wreak havoc twice on Divine Desolate Mountain? The two ancestral kings searched high and low, and even all the disciples of the Heavenly Venerate could not escape from suspicion. They were requested to hand over their spatial god tools for inspection. However, Ling Han had the Black Tower, and as long as they were not Heavenly Venerates, no one could tell it was there. He easily passed the inspection. Now, the whole Divine Desolate Mountain had entered once more into a state of vigilance. Both ancestral kings felt vexed, and even had plans to request the return of several senior brothers at the 18th Lotus to investigate this matter. Ling Han's heart was calm. In any case, he would not be able to stay for much longer here, and once he used the great burst of the Black Tower, he would definitely kill several foreign realm monarch stars while he was at it, such as Shuegu. The latter had devoured a human right in front of him, and Ling Han's killing intent blazed at this. Another dozen-plus days later, the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu finally manifested once more and discussed the plan with Ling Han. It was mainly him talking and organizing the details of Ling Han's actions and where he would go after he succeeded. Ling Han planned to go to the Dark Inverse Realm because there was no way back. However, the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu shook his head. I am already at the end of my line, and after I escape, I will deliver you back to the Celestial Realm. Though the energy storm will cause severe injury to me, I no longer care. Senior, Ling Han was moved. Seeing Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's actions, the latter planned to follow in the steps of the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, and fuse himself with Heavenly Tao to damage the connecting point of the two realms, giving more time to the celestial realm. No need to say further. I have decided. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu declared resolutely. Ling Han could only respectfully bow towards him. The Heavenly Venerates of the older generation did not just consist of selfish people like Zhu, Heavenly Venerate, and Sealed Emotion, Heavenly Venerable. There were also greatly honorable and virtuous beings like Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu and the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable. Brat, you were able to. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu looked at Ling Han smilingly. He had a very high opinion of Ling Han, who had been able to escape into the foreign realm all alone, and still managed to live so well. How many could do the same? The two appreciated each other's talent. Though the difference in their cultivation levels was like the gap between heaven and earth, and the same applied to their age, they became firm comrades because they held the same faith. After going through all the details, Ling Han made his final preparations and drew the three women and Little Terror back into the Black Tower while also having Wally turn into an ornament that hung from his robes. He prepared to act tomorrow night. Day and night existed on divine Desolate Mountain, but daytime lasted as long as 3 days, while night only lasted 1 night, i.e., had normal length. This was the power of a Heavenly Venerable tier. A day passed very quickly, and Ling Han moved out. This time, he made no attempts to hide himself. Who knew what corner the sliver of divine sense of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was roaming around now? Furthermore, his true self was presently working hard to refine the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. He was definitely paying no attention to outside matters. The rest were all mediocre, and he could suppress all of them by simply using the power of the Black Tower. Bah! What are you doing outside at such a late hour? An angry rebuke rang out, and Feng Huang appeared. He looked coldly at Ling Han. Could it be that you are that great thief? The latter's words were naturally his deliberate attempt to smear Ling Han's name. Ling Han grinned. That's right, I am. Chapter 2366, True Face. Chapter 2366, True Face. Feng Huang fatlered slightly. He had not expected that Ling Han would admit it. He humphed and said, "This matter involves the honor of our master, yet you are still all smiles about it. You do not take the pride of the line of Desolate Eternity seriously at all. I will definitely report this to our 2 senior brothers." He did not believe that Ling Han was that great kidnapper at all, because doing that did not offer the slightest benefit for Ling Han. Ling Han rubbed his chin and smilingly asked, "Why is it that no one ever believes me when I speak the truth? All right then, how about this?" He revealed his true face. You. Feng Huang's emotions fluctuated greatly. You are that human. A great many Heavenly Venerates had issued an arrest warrant for Ling Han together. This had shaken the entire foreign realm, but no matter how hard they searched high and low, they could not find Ling Han at all. But who would have imagined that this guy would be incredibly high profile and actually scramble his way into the territory of a Heavenly Venerate? You are too outrageously bold, Feng Huang called out loudly. Now, he truly believed that Ling Han was that great thief behind the kidnappings. Am I? Ling Han laughed, but he was already charging towards Feng Huang in a single move. Boom! He shot out a fist, and it was like the mountain itself was crumbling. How could Feng Huang possibly dare to take this head-on? In the past, he had been no match for Ling Han, and now that Ling Han had advanced a step further, he naturally was even less of a match for him. He hurriedly released a battle cry, launching a signal for help. Ling Han moved widely and boldly, already using fists of fury, as his frightening physical power surged out. Something that surpassed regulations was showing its might. Though it was just a tiny bit, it was enough to push his destructive power to a higher level. It was only a few strikes, and Feng Huang was already in dire straits. He had no choice but to ignite his blood essence, or he could possibly die at any time. He was stunned, furious, and afraid all at the same time. This was divine Desolate Mountain, the place of enlightenment of a Heavenly Venerate, Yet a puny human was committing a crime here. Even if Ling Han was torn to pieces, so what? This would be an eternal shame for the line of desolate eternity. Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. Someone was already shooting over. It was Si Huangyun. He saw how Feng Haowan was presently battling with Ling Han and couldn't help but be dumbfounded. How could there be a human here? Could it be this was one of those slaves previously? This was not impossible. Though his memory was extraordinarily good, what need did he have to remember the faces of these lowly slaves? Help me now. Feng Haowan called out loudly. His wings were already wilted. In a short few Minchu's time, he had already aged several decades. Multiple wrinkles had already appeared on his initially clear and fair forehead. Though competition existed among the line of desolate eternity, this was now an enemy invading from outside. Si Huangyun did not dare to just stand by. Otherwise, if the matter was investigated afterwards, his crime would really be too heavy. Who is he? Si Huangyun asked in shock as he joined the battle. How could an indescribably powerful human appear here? Bah! Feng Haowan said through gritted teeth. What? Si Huangyun was greatly shocked. This guy was really outrageously bold. As a mere human, he actually dared to come and become a disciple at the place of enlightenment of a heavenly venerate. And what was more important, he actually managed to deceive a heavenly venerate, though the latter was only a sliver of divine sense. What? This trash is Ba? An elite arrived. This time, it was Shuegu. He looked at Ling Han, the killing intent in his eyes blazing. He finally understood why Ling Han had slapped him in the face repeatedly for no reason. As it turned out, he was human, so he naturally could not bear to see him devour his fellow men. Ha 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 ha. He suddenly laughed loudly, filled with cruelty. It was great now. He could get his revenge to his heart's content. I will devour your brain tissue. This man's name is Ling Han, the person that various heavenly venerates are hunting down. Zi Shuang appeared, with her eyes sweeping over Ling Han, filled with surprise. Initially, she had wanted to form an alliance with Ling Han, and now that she had seen Ling Han reveal his real face, she was naturally exploding with shock. When these worlds fell, both Si Huangyun and Shuegu frowned. They had not anticipated that Ling Han would be so strong that a considerable number of heavenly venerates had kept him in mind. Capture him to wipe off the shame of our line of desolate eternity. Shuegu shouted loudly, joining the battle as well. Ling Han grinned, but his eyes were menacing as he asked, All of you have come to your deaths? You are only a human. Shuegu smirked coldly. He burst out with the power unique to his race. A boundless bloody light spread out, and regulations of darkness extended, filled with the reek of slaughter and bloodshed. Invincible exploding clouds. Si Huangyun also shouted loudly, using a great burst of power. Feng Haowan did not use any bursts of power, though. He was already burning even his blood essence, and had long since reached his limits. Ling Han smirked coldly and waved his right hand. The divine demon sword was summoned, its cold light dazzling the heavens. He was too strong now, and added with a celestial tool like the divine demon sword, he was naturally invincible. Pooh! Shuegu was the first to suffer, being cleaved in two by the divine demon sword. This was because Ling Han was targeting him specifically, seeing him as the first target that had to be killed. Shuegu screamed in pain. He attempted to reconnect the two halves of his body, but with how overbearing the divine demon sword was, it was useless even if the ripped halves of his body were pulled together. He could not fuse them back together again. Not only was that the case, he was still continuously losing blood. This bleeding would not kill a 9th Lotus Elite, but losing too much would still cause great damage to his strength, and his cultivation level could even regress. Ling Han attacked aggressively, wanting to follow up with a few more strikes and completely kill this damn insect. How dare you! Zishuang released a battle cry and joined the battle as well. At this time, more people were rushing here. Huaijian, Su Xing, Jing Zhongyue, and the others were naturally all astounded when they found out that this human was Ba, and when they knew that he was the man that the Heavenly Venerates were hunting down, they were naturally even more astonished. Ling Han's right hand wielded the sword, while his left hand was curled into a fist. As the divine sword swept out, there was no one that could match it at all, and Fists of Fury was also filled with dominance. Even Zishuang did not dare face it directly, and they could only block it with the combined efforts of 2 or 3 people. Die! Jing Zhongyue and Huai Jian both joined the battle. There was no way that they could allow Ling Han to kill anyone. Finally, Ancestral King Nawa appeared as well. His eyes swept over them, and a rip was immediately torn in the air, as if the heaven itself was about to collapse. Ancestral kings were too strong, being equal with regulations themselves. As long as you used regulations, there was no possible way that you could match an ancestral king. This was an overwhelming level of strength. Surrender! Ancestral King Nawa moved, grabbing out at Ling Han. Small tower. Ling Han called out mentally. Immediately, an indescribable power surged out within Ling Han's body. Then, the heaven and earth immediately paled, with thunderclouds spreading out densely, as if a supreme great tribulation was about to descend. This was because the Black Tower had shown its might. This was a power that belonged to the celestial realm and was not recognized by this realm. Pung! Ling Han directly sent out a palm strike, and Ancestral King Nawa was instantly smacked flat. When he raised his hand again, this powerful being had already become a mess of flesh and blood. This was an ancestral king, yet Ling Han did not even cast a second look at him. The Black Tower's power was limited. He had to finish what he came to do as soon as possible. Pong, pong, pong. He did not deliberately target anyone, but Shuegu directly exploded under his crushing aura, both form and spirit obliterated. With the surge of might from the Black Tower, Ling Han could possess pseudo-Heavenly Venerable tier strength. Even the majority of 9th Heaven Celestial Kings could not survive 10 moves from him. What more a mere 9th Lotus, especially when the latter was already severely injured at that. Everyone was stunned. An ancestral king and a monarch star had actually already died in Ling Han's hands in the blink of an eye, and they couldn't even manage to react in time. No wonder the Heavenly Venerates had issued an arrest warrant for Ling Han together. Chapter 2367, Clashing with a Heavenly Venerate. Chapter 2367, Clashing with a Heavenly Venerate. Ling Han did not linger in battle. He merely casually shot out a punch, and Huai Jian and the others instantly exploded like flowers being scattered. Under his might, they could not even last a single blow. Most people directly exploded into flesh and blood, but Huai Jian and Jing Zhongyue were spared. A light flickered on them, and it blocked the attack from Ling Han. The power of the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity, Ling Han thought immediately. That elite was really prejudiced, having given additional help and care to Huai Jian and Jing Zhongyue. He did not follow up with another blow, but rather shot forwards onto the mountain. With his speed, he instantly threw Jing Zhongyue and Huai Jian off his tail, charging into the mountains. Ancestral King Zhikong immediately awoke. He had sensed a terrifying killing intent had already locked down on him, but he had just opened his eyes when a cold flash had already struck down on him, splitting him in two. Pa! The left and right side of his body slipped down to the sides, and he died just like that. Hong long long, lightning flashed in the skies, turning into multiple giants that descended, launching a barrage of blasts at Ling Han, and the heaven and earth grieved as well, lamenting the death of an ancestral king. Ling Han took a deep breath and concentrated his power entirely on the divine demon sword. The frightening power of Heavenly Venerable tier caused even the blade to tremble, as if it could shatter at any moment. He shouted loudly and delivered a sword strike. Pung! The whole divine desolate mountain shuddered strongly, dust and dirt flying, and turning into a massive mushroom cloud, and if one could come into the center of the mountains, they would see that the whole mountain peak had been leveled. Wang, a frightening divine sense spread out, filled with age and experience. It was like a wild beast that had gone through endless years had awoken, filled with fury, and planning to destroy the heavens and earth. Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity. The commotion was too great, awakening him from his secluded state. As he had been refining the Heavenly Venerate Wulu all these epochs, this disturbance had incredibly strong effects on him. Thus, he was incredibly furious. Who would dare to disturb him? You. The Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity stretched out a hand, and the dust and dirt that filled the skies were instantly swept aside. He stood proudly like the overlord of a realm, exuding an aura that even the heaven and earth seemed to be trembling at. Ling Han understood. It was not the heaven and earth that was fearing him, but rather regulations. His vitality index was close to 16,000 points. This guy's strength was already so high that it was close to the level of second-tier Heavenly Venerate. A mere piece of trash of the human race, just because you have a mighty precious tool, you dare to commit insolence in front of me. Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity smirked coldly. Boom! The power of heaven and earth rippled. Regulations were not allowed to exist at all, and split apart consequently. This blow could destroy worlds. Ling Han roared loudly and faced it with his full efforts. Pong! With this blow, he was directly sent flying tens of thousands of miles away. The gap between them was too wide. How could a pseudo-Heavenly Venerate face a real Heavenly Venerate? What more when the Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity was one of the strongest on this level at that? Perhaps he was even the strongest Heavenly Venerate. But Ling Han charged back without the slightest hesitation. The divine demon's sword danced, unafraid of even a Heavenly Venerate. You are courting death. The Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity was outraged, and once more stretched out his hand to strike Ling Han down. Pong, pong, pong. With every strike, Ling Han was undoubtedly sent flying. The gap in strength between them was really too wide, but he would immediately charge back every time like he was a monster that could not be killed. Finally, Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity was truly angered. He had left behind a portion of his power to suppress the Heavenly Venerate Wulu all this while, and that was why he had not been able to unleash his true power. But now he could not accept that he had not been able to kill a mere minor character in Ninth Lotus after such a long time. Boom! He sent out another palm strike, and his might instantly soared 100 or even 1,000 times over, terrifying to the extreme. This time, he was truly attacking with his full power. Even the heaven and earth would be wary of such strong power, and a part of the heavenly tribulation instantly blasted at the Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity. He was too powerful and could not exist in this realm. Pong! Without the slightest doubt, Ling Han exploded into a shower of blood. Then, a flame ignited. He was presently reforming and healing himself rapidly. Rising from the ashes. Initially, Ling Han could not use rising from the ashes after entering the foreign realm, because regulations differed, but the Black Tower was showing its might this time, which was equivalent to having created a small realm of the celestial realm. In this zone, Ling Han could use all the regulations of the celestial realm. Overestimating yourself. The Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity smirked coldly. So what if you rose from the ashes again? He only had to follow up with another strike, and could still send Ling Han on to his next life. Boom! He struck out with a palm, not giving Ling Han any chance to resurrect himself. Pong! Right at this crucial moment, his palm was actually blocked. What? Even Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity revealed an expression of disbelief. This was something that he had completely failed to predict. Ha 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 ha, Desolate Eternity, never thought that I would still be able to battle, right? The laughter of Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu rang out. His figure had appeared as well, turning into the image of a middle-aged man in his 30s. He was handsome, generous, and incomparable in his charisma. So, this brat wanted to draw me into attacking with full power so as to create a chance for you to escape. Heavenly Venerate, Desolate Eternity immediately understood. Instantly, flames were gushing from his nostrils, stronger than even the origin flame of the heaven and earth. He was almost dying from fury. Now that Heavenly Venerate Wulu had escaped, it meant that his efforts for the last over dozen epochs would be wasted. That's right. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu declared proudly, his eyes sweeping over Ling Han and holding a hint of gentleness. This was the doting love an elder felt for a junior. So what about it? I managed to suppress you once, so I will definitely be able to suppress you a second time, or a third time. Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity smirked coldly, but though his words were confident, all his efforts had come to naught this time, and who knew how many more epochs he would have to go through to finally refine the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. Naturally, he was furious to the extreme at this. Desolate Eternity, we will fight again next time. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu laughed loudly and stretched out a hand, grabbing the newly revived Ling Han. Then, taking a step, he was instantly millions and millions of miles away. Furthermore, before he left, he did not forget to deliver a last attack, filled with the fury that had accumulated from him almost being refined. Boom! Heavenly Venerate Divine Desolate Mountain had no choice but to parry this attack, but merely the rippling of several slivers of power almost raised the whole Divine Desolate Mountain into the ground, and who knew how many people had become a mush of blood and flesh. This was the strike of a Heavenly Venerate, the power that surpassed regulations. Damn it! Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity roared in fury and set off in hot pursuit of Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. He was determined to capture both Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu and Ling Han and subject them to the cruelest of punishments. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu did not linger in battle at all and directly aimed for the connecting point of the two realms. With how fast the speed of a Heavenly Venerate was, they could appear at any corner with a mere thought. Though this was only the manifestation of divine sense, which was faster than their physical body, in truth, their physical speed was not much worse, either. In merely half an hour, the connecting point of the two realms was already within sight. In this place, the storm of energy had taken the form of a colossal waterfall that descended from the heavens, preventing anyone from leaving or entering. Even a Heavenly Venerate would be severely wounded should they attempt to barge in by force, and added with how they would be targeted by the heaven and earth, there was a 99% chance that they would die. Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was already close to approaching. He couldn't help but smirk coldly. Could it be that they had come here planning to barge into the storm of energy? Desolate Eternity, no need for the send-off. Your life will be up to this brat to take in future. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu laughed loudly, charging over into the energy storm without the slightest hesitation. No! Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu screamed in fury. Though his strength had greatly improved in these more than dozen epochs, he had still not reached the pinnacle of the first tier, Heavenly Venerate. As he saw it, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was actually a Heavenly Venerable tier great herb for him. He stretched out his hand to grab him, gushing with his full power. The ground in the surrounding area, stretching as far as hundreds of thousands of miles, was completely destroyed. Who knew how many beings of the foreign realm had been implicated and died? Chapter 2368, Noble Ideals. Chapter 2368, Noble Ideals. Heavenly Venerable tier had surpassed regulations. What kind of lofty existence was this? Every single person that could become a Heavenly Venerate was a prodigy among prodigies. Who would be weaker than the other? Even if Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was in a weak state, now that he had the lead, he was not afraid that the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity would catch up to him, either. Boom! He rushed into the energy storm, all signs of him disappearing immediately. Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity came to an abrupt stop. He could charge in, but he would definitely suffer severe injuries, and with the overall level of the celestial realm being lower, the power targeting him would instead be stronger. In a state of severe injury, he would definitely be killed. He roared to the heavens, his voice thunderous and echoing throughout the entire foreign realm, which instantly drew the notice of various Heavenly Venerates, who manifested their divine sense here. Setting the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity aside, after Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu charged into the energy storm, his hand held Ling Han, using his supreme power to protect him, yet he, with noble aspirations, faced the energy storm head-on. He had been imprisoned for over a dozen epochs and had almost been refined. Naturally, He would prefer to die in battle instead. He spat out blood continuously. Heavenly Venerable tier was indeed superior to regulations, but at least first tier, Heavenly Venerate was not enough to stand against the heaven and earth. Being barraged by the energy storm, his whole body was bathed in blood, and even his bones broke one after another. But this Heavenly Venerate's fighting spirit blazed even higher. There was a faith keeping him strong, was determined to deliver Ling Han safely back to the celestial realm even if it meant his death. As he saw it, this was the hope of the celestial realm. Ling Han was the sole and only person who had managed to venture into the foreign realm and return completely unscathed. If Ling Han could become a Heavenly Venerate, he could possibly become the strongest Heavenly Venerate. He burst out with his full power, traversing through the energy storm bit by bit. Heavenly Venerable tier power soared into the heavens, and he roared repeatedly. His noble aspirations surged as he brandished his fists continuously. He was practically invincible, endless light surging out of his body, dazzling the ages. With every punch he shot out, the energy storm would be blasted apart, and a vacuum would appear, and even the time stream could be glimpsed. This was a Heavenly Venerate, superior to regulations and endlessly close to heaven and earth itself. Boom! He charged out of the energy storm, standing proudly in the skies. I have returned. He released a bold, loud laugh. He then took a deep breath. Boundless power of heaven and earth turned into a visible stream that poured out towards his body. Initially, he was battered and bruised, but with the pouring of the strong power of heaven and earth into him, there were signs that his injuries were actually slowly recovering. But right at this moment, thunderclouds gathered densely, with lightning flashing in their depths, striking out at the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. This lightning possessed frightening might, and actually stopped the recovery of Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's injuries. The heavens despised him. A Heavenly Venerate had snatched the power of heaven and earth, surpassed regulations, and was no longer under the authority of the heaven and earth. At the same time, he was also abandoned by the heaven and earth. Thus, the moment he appeared, he would be targeted by the heaven and earth, and if he actually fought, it would be even more serious. He wanted to heal his injuries. What more when it was such heavy Tao injury? That was practically impossible. Suddenly, the supply of power of heaven and earth stopped, and Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu frowned greatly. If he was still in his prime state, he would not need to fear being obstructed by the heaven and earth. He could snatch it by force. After all, the heaven and earth could not directly interfere with him, and could only act through regulations, but even the strongest regulations would only be at the ninth heaven celestial king tier. But now that his strength had dropped to rock bottom, he had also used the last bit of his power when he passed through the energy storm. He really was at the end of his line now. Wang, a figure appeared, exuding a great aura that suppressed the heaven and earth. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate. The moment he appeared, he was naturally targeted by the heaven and earth as endless lightning blasted down on him. Wu Lu! Jiwu Heavenly Venerate exclaimed in shock. He was incredibly stunned. This person in front of him should have died over a dozen epochs ago, and now he had actually made a sudden reappearance. Even with his subtlety, he was stunned. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu smiled boldly and asked, "Never thought I could return again, right?" Jiwu Heavenly Venerate humphed, his face expressionless, yet a wild storm was taking place in his heart. In the past, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had used himself to crash into the connecting point of the two realms, just like the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, sacrificing himself to protect the celestial realm. And now Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had appeared once more. Then what about the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable? If the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable had not died, matters would really become troublesome. Thank goodness. He swept an eye over the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. The latter's power of heaven and earth was practically exhausted, and he was also severely injured. Even if he made no move, the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu would still rapidly walk towards death. This disobedient brat. When Jiwu Heavenly Venerate spotted Ling Han, who was still in Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's grasp, A flash of killing intent flickered in his eyes. Previously, he had personally pursued Ling Han, yet the latter had actually managed to flee into the foreign realm. This was a humiliation to him. How could a heavenly venerate fail? Hand over this disobedient brat, and I will let you enjoy the rest of your life in peace, he said. He appeared very generous, but he knew that there were not many days left for the heavenly venerate Wu Lu, and that was why he had spoken in this manner. Heavenly venerate Wu Lu smirked coldly. Juwu, you are truly shameless. For the sake of your own transcendence, you have set aside all the living creatures of the entire celestial realm, and you can still bring yourself to stand in front of me? Are you courting death? Juwu Heavenly Venerate asked menacingly. You only have about 100 years to live, at most. I do not mind sending you earlier on your way. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu laughed loudly. That's right. There is indeed not much time left for me, but it is no issue to drag another person down with me before I die. Do you wish to die with me? Juwu Heavenly Venerate was disdainful. You are already at the end of your line. What right do you have to bring me down with you? You have no measure of your own abilities. Xiao, as he spoke, various colorful clouds flashed repeatedly in the skies, and a great many people appeared around them. They were all celestial kings. They naturally had sensed the abnormal fluctuation in the energy storm, and had come to investigate the matter, but how could a ninth heaven celestial king possibly compare to a heavenly venerate in speed? There were really quite a number of people there. Eternity Celestial King, Everlasting Youth Celestial King, Treading Clouds Celestial King, Thousand Words Celestial King, as well as Shangji Wei. When these celestial kings spotted Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu, they all looked incredibly stunned. There was actually another Heavenly Venerate in the celestial realm. I will repeat it again. Hand over that disobedient brat, or you will have to die with him. Juwu Heavenly Venerate issued the final warning. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was nonchalant. If I went all out in battle, it would be no problem to drag you down with me. If you wish to die, I can oblige you. Juwu Heavenly Venerate instantly frowned. Though he could tell that Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's injuries were extremely severe, and he would not have long to live, exactly how much battle prowess he had left was still a question mark. The latter was a person that would definitely die. If he dragged him down with him, that would naturally be a great loss on his side. Hee, we parted over a dozen epochs ago, my friend, and you do not seem to look too well. A cold laugh rang out, and yet another supreme overlord arrived. Sealed emotion, Heavenly Venerable. If I join forces with friend Juwu Heavenly Venerate, do you still have the confidence to drag either one of us down with you? Sealed emotion, Heavenly Venerable asked. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was still uncaring. When the two of you are but a thought? His face bore an expression of disdain, as if he could destroy these two powerful beings with a single strike. My real self will definitely arrive in less than an hour, Juwu Heavenly Venerate stated evenly. That applies to me as well. Sealed emotion, Heavenly Venerable looked coldly at Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. My friend, you had best accept our kind offer. Selfish guys, don't talk of such nonsense with me. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was completely unmoved, bearing noble ideals as he pointed at the Juwu Heavenly Venerate and Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable respectively. Just bring it on, and I will take on the two of you. Chapter 2369, True Selves Arrive. Great Clash of Heavenly Venerates. Chapter 2369, True Selves Arrive. Great Clash of Heavenly Venerates. Everyone was enchanted. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was too dominant, facing two great Heavenly Venerates all by himself. He was clearly already heavily injured, yet was not afraid in the slightest, and looked down loftily on the rest of the world. And if he was in his prime condition, just how noble and majestic would he be? Ling Han could imagine it. When Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had battled with the foreign realm Heavenly Venerates, he had also been alone, and he had just charged onwards like that, turning even eternity into a void and destroying the foreign realm's dreams of invasion for several epochs. This would cause one's blood to blaze, dream about this, and be filled with admiration. Unfortunately, Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable and the other great Heavenly Venerates had clearly deliberately concealed this part. The future generations had not even heard of a person like the Heavenly Venerate Wulu, and that was the same for even Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable. If it were not for the fact that there were some old celestial kings that had been alive since that era, Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable's sacrifice would probably have long since been buried in history. Sealed emotion, Heavenly Venerable's expression darkened. Friend Wulu, your time is already limited. Even if you can save this brat once, how could it be that you could save him 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times? Heavenly Venerate Wulu scoffed. As long as I am still alive, I will not allow anyone to touch a single hair on his head. Both sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable and Jiwu Heavenly Venerate did not speak further, and merely looked on coldly, as if capable of freezing even time and space. Even ninth heaven celestial kings could feel their bodies trembling as a boundless chill spread out. It should be known that this was only the divine sense of two Heavenly Venerates. If their true selves were here, just how terrifying would it be? Heavenly Venerable tier was too powerful. More and more celestial kings were arriving. Next, it was not just celestial kings. Even a considerable number of ascending origin tiers and immortal palace tiers had arrived. The majority were the most talented of the younger generation, such as Ji Wuming, Shichanzi, Hong Huang, Jialan, the Rain Emperor, and so on. When they saw Ling Han, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How was this possible? Wasn't this guy being hunted by the Heavenly Venerates? It was said that he had fled into the foreign realm, but after roaming around there, not only had he returned completely unscathed, he was accompanied by another Heavenly Venerate. Just what kind of great luck was this? Ling Han swept a glance over. His eyes first paused on the Rain Emperor, and he smiled slightly at this second brother of his before shifting over and pausing on Hong Huang. He was stunned. This guy actually hadn't died. A dead person could still be revived. This was his first time encountering something like this. It had to be the power of a Heavenly Venerate. How truly shocking that they were capable of even reviving a dead man. This was truly heaven-defying. However, at this moment, whether it was Ling Han, Ji Wuming, or Hong Huang, none of them were in any place to speak. The three great Heavenly Venerates were the true main characters here, and they were also the only leading characters. More and more people arrived, but after a while, space ripped, and two people walked out at practically the same moment. Xiao. The two slivers of divine sense of the Jiwu Heavenly Venerate and sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable immediately shot towards these two people and sank into them in a flash. These two people were the true selves of the two great Heavenly Venerates. Their true selves had arrived, and this might naturally could not be spoken about in the same breath. They did not need to move, and even the heaven was trembling and the ground was cracking as clouds swirled quickly. A boundless heavenly tribulation was already forming, turning into an ocean of lightning giants that blasted out at these two great Heavenly Venerates. Hand him over or die. Sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable demanded coldly. He was clearly only as tall as the average person, but as everyone looked at him, it was like they were looking up at a god that was millions and millions of meters tall, and their only option was to kneel and worship. You're dreaming. Heavenly Venerate Wulu scoffed. If he had wanted to hand Ling Han over, he would have done so long ago, and the reason why he had not fled earlier was because, firstly, this was the pride of a Heavenly Venerate, and secondly, he knew that wherever he fled, he would be caught up with ultimately by the two of them, so he might as well battle them here and now. Battle until these two people hurt, and naturally they would no longer dare to say anything else. Then we will send you off to the underworld. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate spoke, his voice overbearing and filled with the authority of an emperor. Instantly, the majority of people were compelled to kneel, feeling like even their hearts were close to exploding. Only the minority, a few ninth heaven celestial kings, were exempted. Those were the celestial kings of the highest tier. Jiwu, you really think you are the highest authority now? Heavenly Venerate Wulu laughed coldly and actually made the first move. With him sending out a palm strike, it turned to a millstone that shrouded the heavens and sun, and descended on Jiwu Heavenly Venerate. An ancient seal appeared on this millstone, surpassing the height of regulations, as if it was unveiling the true essence of the heaven and earth. Those ninth heaven celestial kings instantly widened their eyes and looked on carefully. This was a heavenly venerate using himself as an example. If they could grasp some ideas from this, who knew, they might be able to open the great doors that led to the heavenly venerable tier. Heavenly venerable tier had surpassed regulations, but this did not mean that he could not use regulations. This was heavenly venerate Wu Li's own Tao. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate was naturally unafraid, charging forwards with his fists. Boom, boom, boom. The two great heavenly venerates fought. This was too terrifying. The heaven and earth was forcefully ripped apart, as if doomsday was about to arrive. And as they fought, the heavenly tribulation naturally became even more terrifying. Heavenly venerates were elites that could truly damage this heaven and earth, and the moment they appeared, they would be targeted by the heaven and earth, and if they battled, they would sustain an even stronger backlash from the heaven and earth. But now, neither of the two great heavenly venerates paid any regard to this. They were only battling with their full efforts. Sealed emotion, Heavenly Venerable set his eyes on Ling Han. It was only a stare, yet Ling Han felt as if his skin was about to explode. Small tower, Ling Han said softly, and a strong power instantly bubbled out of his body, the aura of pseudo-heavenly venerable tears spreading out. Now that he had returned to the celestial realm, the Black Tower naturally could extract the power of heaven and earth of the celestial realm and was completely revived. However, the Black Tower had not completely recovered. Thus, it could only help Ling Han reach the height of pseudo-heavenly venerable tier now. Otherwise, it could have boosted him to a higher level. However, this was more than enough to deal with the pressure exerted by the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable. After all, there was no need for him to clash with a direct attack from a Heavenly Venerate. Humph! Sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable moved, stretching out a hand. Instantly, it arrived in front of Ling Han's eyes. It was as large as a star, planning to squeeze Ling Han to bursting. Sealed emotion. What is the point of bullying a child? Heavenly Venerable Wu Lu suddenly charged back, his fist flying towards Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable's face. Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable knew that Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was already close to the end of his line, but this was still the attack of a Heavenly Venerate, after all. How could he possibly dare to be careless? He had no choice but to give up his attack on Ling Han, and turn around to parry the attack from Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu. Ha 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 ha. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu laughed loudly, his lofty aspirations soaring. He alone was clashing with two great heavenly venerates, and still managed to attack with every move, making it seem as if he alone could match two great heavenly venerates. Everyone was exclaiming repeatedly in shock. They had not thought that this newly appeared heavenly venerate would actually be so impressive. Sealed Emotion and Jiwu had their own considerations. It was not that they were no match to Wu Lu. On the contrary, the latter was already covered with multiple injuries, his battle prowess dropping drastically. Either one of them was actually stronger than Wu Lu. However, it could not be helped that the heavenly venerate Wu Lu was aiming to die together with either one of them with every move, and neither of them had the resolve to die with him. In fact, they were not willing to even sustain severe injuries. Thus, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu naturally had gotten the upper hand and the initiative. But this kind of situation could not be maintained for too long. Under the pressure of battle of Heavenly Venerable tears, Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's injuries would very soon explode, and he would be killed first by the heaven and earth without any interference from them. Do you really think that we cannot do anything to you? Jiwu Heavenly Venerate was truly angered now. His forehead split apart, and a divine sword leaped out. Instantly, every person that wielded a sword felt their sword heart trembling as if it was about to crumble, and whether their sword was in their god tool or otherwise, they were all moaning. Chapter 2370, at the end of the line, Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable appears. Chapter 2370, at the end of the line, Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable appears. Die. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate brandished his sword, and a majestic light blazed. Only a strong sword chi was left in this world. It was like an emperor had come out, and everyone could only kneel on the ground and bow to him. This was a Heavenly Venerable tier precious tool, Jiwu Great Imperial Sword. In front of this imperial sword, any other sword-like tools could only tremble. This was the reverence they felt towards a Heavenly Venerate. Heavenly Venerate Wu Le clenched his fists and greeted the incoming blow. Pong, pong, pong. Sword light and fist chi collided, dazzling hundreds of millions of kilometers. They exchanged a series of several hundred blows before finally ending the clash for this round. Copious amounts of blood were gushing from Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's fists, looking just like a golden celestial fluid. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu frowned slightly. His present battle prowess had dropped so greatly that he would actually be wounded by the other's weapon. He would be more willing to battle intensely to boiling point, drawing the interference of the heaven and earth so that they both would not dare to continue the battle further. Otherwise, should the power of heaven and earth move aggressively, it was definitely not something that a first-tier Heavenly Venerate could deal with. After all, neither of them had transcended, and they were still limited by this realm. But he had not expected that his own battle prowess would actually decline so greatly. Going by the look of things now, the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable only had to summon his own precious tool, and the two of them combining forces should be capable of very quickly suppressing him. Wu Lu, what is the point? Sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable asked coldly. Since you have already become the dust of history, why did you have to appear again? Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu laughed, his fighting spirit reignited. How could a Heavenly Venerate possibly feel despair? Even after being refined by the desolate eternity Heavenly Venerate for so many years, he had never given up and had always been earnestly preserving that sliver of practically impossible hope. However, he had truly managed to wait until Ling Han came. He wiped his blood casually and pressed the Heavenly Venerate blood on Ling Han's body. Instantly, Ling Han grunted, feeling like his skin was on fire and blood was dripping from his 7 apertures. It should be known that ancestral king blood was greatly nutritious, and what Ling Han had gotten was from those in 14th Lotus and below, and not this was Heavenly Venerate blood, so it was naturally incredibly overwhelming. Thankfully, when Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had wiped the blood on Ling Han's body, he had already erased the murderous aura contained within, or Ling Han would not be able to bear it, even if he was a pseudo-Heavenly Venerate right now. But the benefits were endless. This was Heavenly Venerate blood, and what Heavenly Venerate would extract their own blood to nourish someone else? If it were not for the fact that Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had been bleeding from being attacked, he naturally would not waste it either. As for now, it would be a waste if he did, so it would be better that he use it on Ling Han instead. Ah! Ling Han released a loud shout. The Heavenly Venerate blood entered his body, turning into gushing lava. This power was too shocking, and he felt incredible agony as if his whole body was about to explode. But the boundless great power of heaven and earth was modifying his physique. This was similar to void particle energy, but it was clear that the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had not grasped it. He was a first-tier Heavenly Venerate, so what he possessed was the unique power of the celestial realm. Even in such agony, Ling Han was still carefully experiencing it because this was an incredibly rare opportunity. He touched this power to establish foundations for the day when he would advance to the Heavenly Venerable tier in the future. When a Heavenly Venerate ascended Tao, they would definitely have to grasp this kind of unique power. This was the basis of a Heavenly Venerate, and was also eternally engraved in his bones, signifying that he would be a person of this realm forever. Whichever realm they ascended Tao in, the unique mark of that realm would then be emblazoned on them. With his present power of pseudo-Heavenly Venerable tier, Ling Han was qualified to make a slight comparison and realized that this unique power of the celestial realm was slightly inferior to void particle energy. It was just by a bit, and there was practically no distinguishing which was superior or inferior, but there was still that slight sliver of a gap. What nonsense are you spouting? Come fight me. Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's fighting spirit blazed. He had already been suppressed for over a dozen epochs. Previously, it was for the sake of escorting Ling Han back that he restrained himself from fighting, but at this moment, he only felt the fiery emotions of wanting to have an intense battle to his heart's content. Sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable spoke no further, and a string of purple bells appeared above his head. The intent realm of primordial age and history flowed out. Upon closer look, phoenixes and dragons were entwined on these purple bells. Heavenly Venerate Wulu looked, and couldn't help but clench his fists, looking furious. You have actually refined both Ancestor Dragon and Ancestor Phoenix. The two of them were living beings that were from the first batch of creatures that came into being when the realm was first created, and were also the strongest beings among them. They were practically capable of representing the celestial tool, yet their spirits had been plucked out by the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable to increase the might of his own precious tool. Sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable smiled faintly. I have never forged my own precious tool, because I have been waiting for this Ancestor Dragon and Ancestor Phoenix to reach the pseudo-Heavenly Venerable tier so that I could refine them into my 10,000 Dragon Heavenly Phoenix bells. When these words fell, everyone was speechless. Ancestor Dragon and Ancestor Phoenix were both two of the strongest among Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings, and there was a chance that they could take that final step. It was rumored that they had been in seclusion for the last few epochs, and a great many Celestial Kings were also filled with anticipation about this. Once the two of them appeared, there might be another two Heavenly Venerates added to the ranks of the Celestial Realm. But now? As it turned out, the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable had actually extracted the spirits of these two powerful Celestial Kings and turned them into his precious tools. He had gone too far, but who would dare say anything? At first, I had wanted to refine your corpse after your death to increase the might of the 10,000 Dragon Heavenly Phoenix bells, but since you are so stubborn, I will refine you directly. Being irrigated by the blood essence of a Heavenly Venerate, this precious tool's might will definitely become even stronger. Sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable declared wickedly. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was outraged, his black locks all fluttering upwards. He had not thought that the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable actually had designs on him, and planned to refine his corpse for his precious tool after his death. However, both great Heavenly Venerates were already going all out. By himself, he was weak, and he was severely injured at that. So how was he supposed to counter them? He had always been unhindered for his whole life, and what crisis or danger had he not encountered before? Even when the Heavenly Venerates of the foreign realm were right at their borders, he had still forged on without fear, and in the end successfully halted their enemies outside their borders. Yet now he discovered that there was really no way out for him. Why had this damn power of heaven and earth still not reached its limit yet, so that these two great Heavenly Venerates would refrain from acting to prevent harm to themselves, and not dare to wreak further destruction? Otherwise, the three of them could only die together. We should end this now. Jiwu Heavenly Venerate charged out, sword in hand, the aura of a great emperor flooding out. Boom! Ling Han's body bounced out of nowhere, releasing a frightening hum, as if his body was a battle drum that was being pounded. And both sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable and Jiwu Heavenly Venerate turned to look at him, sensing that his present condition was slightly unusual. In their eyes, a pseudo-Heavenly Venerate was not much different from mere trash. At most, it would only take slightly additional effort for them to deal with him. However, the aura that was seeping from Ling Han at this moment surpassed pseudo-Heavenly Venerable tier. It was not the blood of Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu, but rather something in his body seemed like it was about to be revived. Ah! Ling Han roared, his chest splitting apart, and a black tower appeared abruptly. Yuan Sheng. In the distance, Shang Jiwei exclaimed in shock, tears streaming down her face instantly. Heavenly Venerate! The large black dog had also popped out from who knew where, and jumped up and down. Shua, shua, shua. The Empress, Hun Yo, Lu Yutong, and the others, all those in the Black Tower, were tossed out, including things like star stones and ancestral king blood. Shdo, the Black Tower rapidly grew in size, turning into a 9-story tower that was filled with an intimidating ancient aura. Yuan Shang, you have already died. What might could a precious tool have? Sealed emotion, Heavenly Venerable said coldly. Just like they would instill a sliver of their own divine sense while they were forging their precious tool. It was this sliver of divine sense that was activated now, allowing the Black Tower to unleash Heavenly Venerable tier battle prowess. Chapter 2371. A shocking turn of events. Chapter 2371. A shocking turn of events. However, a sliver of divine sense was only just that. When this sliver of divine sense was completely exhausted, the battle prowess of the Black Tower would also fall. After all, a Heavenly Venerate tool was still forged by a Heavenly Venerate, so the strongest was still the Heavenly Venerate. A figure walked out of the Black Tower. It could clearly be distinguished that this was not a real person, but rather a shadowy image that had been formed from countless points of light. Yuan Shang. Shang Jiwei wept. To think that she could still see the man that she had yearned for day and night after being separated for 8 epochs. She was practically mad with excitement. Meanwhile, the large black dog was barking loudly and was also howling at the skies. Sealed emotion, you are right. I have indeed long since died, and have only left behind a sliver of my divine sense in the Tower of 3 Realms. Once it is activated, it will disperse very soon, Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable stated calmly. However, the two of you have made one miscalculation. What? Jiwu Heavenly Venerate asked, his voice thundering. It was like the exercise of might from an emperor. Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable pointed at the skies, and then grabbed the Black Tower. Shio, he actually shot rapidly towards the skies. What did this mean? He had appeared with only such great difficulty, and actually did not make his move before this sliver of divine sense was completely burnt out, but rather raced towards the skies. Crack! In the skies, dark clouds spread out, and lightning flashed in their depths. Yeah. The 3 great Heavenly Venerates, Sealed Emotion, Jiwu, and Wu Lu, all exclaimed in surprise. Abruptly, they realized that the power of heaven and earth was roaring, and turning into multiple dragons that surged forth from all directions. Pong, pong, pong. Visible to the naked eye, 16 colored divine dragons flew out from the ground, winding and twisting in the skies. The 3 great Heavenly Venerates were baffled. How could the power of heaven and earth actually manifest? This was illogical because the greatest taboo of the heaven and earth was that someone could grasp this essence power and escape its control. Shio, a divine dragon, suddenly surged towards Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu and sank into his body with a flash. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was surprised. Heavenly Venerates were not doted sons of the heaven and earth, but rather abandoned children. The power of heaven and earth was not bestowed by the heaven and earth, but rather something he had stolen from the heaven and earth. Previously, he had been severely injured and could not contend with the heaven and earth. Thus, he had been unable to further extract the power of heaven and earth. Not only did his battle prowess drop greatly, his injuries could not be healed either. They would only become more severe, and he would finally be killed by the heaven and earth. But now, the power of heaven and earth was actually actively entering into his body. This was too inconceivable. Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable. It must have something to do with the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable. Otherwise, this would be too much of a coincidence. My wish is that all life would be akin to dragons. The voice of the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable rang out from the skies. The tribulation clouds evolved, and the image of the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable actually appeared. The aura he exuded was majestic and boundless, far surpassing the level of any first-tier Heavenly Venerate. Both Jiwu Heavenly Venerate and Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable were greatly shocked. Could it be that the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable had not died, and had instead become even stronger? Hang on. Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable immediately shook his head and raised his head to look at the skies. 8 epochs ago, you have already fused yourself with Heavenly Tao. Both your body and spirit have already been assimilated into the heaven and earth, but a sliver of divine sense was still left behind. Though I cannot guess the exact details of the situation, there is no way that you can influence the actions of Heavenly Tao. It is only now that you can forcefully interfere with the realm using the divine sense in the Heavenly Venerate tool as a stimulus. Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable smiled faintly. That's right. As all life channels, it has its own rhyme and reason. I have already fused with Heavenly Tao and cannot interfere in the matters of this realm. However, it would only be a small token for me to make it so that the two of you would be further targeted by the power of heaven and earth. He pointed a finger, and even more 16-colored divine dragons surged into Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's body. Visible to the naked eye, the aura of the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was presently rapidly strengthening, and his injuries were also quickly healing. Damn it! Both Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable and Juwu Heavenly Venerate humphed lowly. If things went on this way, it would really be possible for Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu to recover completely. They moved, but with a point of the finger from the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, boom, 2 terrifying bolts of lighting struck out at the 2 great Heavenly Venerates respectively, forcing them to stop. It was because these bolts of lightning had far surpassed the standards of 9th Heaven Celestial King tier, and had instead reached the level of 1st tier Heavenly Venerate. In fact, even among 1st tier Heavenly Venerates, they could be considered extremely terrifying. This was a warning from the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable. His words did not hold a single lie, and he could really make it that the heaven and earth would target them even more strongly. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu took in deep breaths. The 16-colored divine dragons surged into his body endlessly, and his body was becoming more and more complete. His aura was also as vast as an ocean. It was like just opening his eyes could cause countless stars to fall from the skies. He had just about recovered to his strongest condition. Both Juwu Heavenly Venerate and Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable were shocked and furious. Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable definitely only had a limited amount of time and extent in which he could influence the heaven and earth, and this was because of that sliver of divine sense that he had left behind in the Tower of 3 Realms. Once this sliver of divine sense dispersed, he would only be assimilated by Heavenly Tao. Perhaps he would still be able to see and hear, but there would be no way for him to interfere. No matter how strong a Heavenly Venerate was, how could they possibly compare with heaven and earth itself? But it was precisely this limited amount of time for him to show his might, and the 2 great Heavenly Venerates were completely helpless. If they wanted to oppose the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, they could, and that was by similarly fusing themselves with Heavenly Tao. Then, they would all be able to battle within Heavenly Tao. But what meaning was there to this? To fuse themselves with Heavenly Tao meant that they would no longer exist. Then, even if they defeated the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, so what? Ha 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 ha. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu laughed loudly. His injuries had already completely recovered, and he had returned to his strongest state. Even the heaven and earth was helping him cheat, so how could it not be awesome? Come fight me again. He pounced aggressively, challenging the 2 great Heavenly Venerates simultaneously. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 great Heavenly Venerates were forced to face the battle. This time, the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable had not influenced the heaven and earth to deliberately target the Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable and Juwu Heavenly Venerate. But Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's battle prowess was unexpectedly great. Even in a battle of 1 against 2, he was actually not at the slightest disadvantage. Both Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable and Juwu Heavenly Venerate were astonished. Heavenly Venerate Wu Li grinned proudly. With them all being able to become a Heavenly Venerate, who would be weaker than the other? Though it was Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity that was refining him, in this process, he had also spied on the former's Tao. That was over a dozen epochs, and the 2 Heavenly Venerates were both studying each other's Tao and contending with each other, Traversing the edge of danger, whoever was the slightest bit careless would be refined by the other. Hence, while Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity was powerful, with Vitality Index that was close to 16,000, that was actually the same for Heavenly Venerate Wulu as well. However, as he was in the realm of the foreign realm, and could not get any replenishment of power of heaven and earth from the celestial realm, he had become weaker and weaker, but once he returned to his prime condition, his battle prowess would be much too terrifying. His Vitality Index was also close to 16,000. Otherwise, how would he have managed to stand against the Heavenly Venerate Desolate Eternity? Everyone's eyes were glazed over. Who would have thought that not only had Heavenly Venerate Wulu been dragged back from the brink of death, he had become as powerful as this at that. Even in a battle of 2 against 1, he was still undefeated. Yuan Sheng. In the distance, Shang Ji-wei murmured to the skies. Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable looked towards her and revealed an apologetic smile. Ji-wei, it was I who had let you down. In the future, let go of your grudges and continue living well. No, I want to be with you. Shang Ji-wei shook her head, her tone determined and stubborn. Step after step, she walked onwards, and as she walked, her body was also burning. She was actually going to disperse herself and return to the heaven and earth. Master! Anran exclaimed, and wanted to pull Shang Ji-wei back, yet the latter waved a palm lightly at her, and she was swept onto the ground. I know you must hate me for killing Yun. Now, I shall give my life back to her. I want to be with you forever. Shang Ji-wei burned herself, turning herself into regulations that were compatible with the heaven and earth. Everyone could not help but feel touched. Chapter 2372, Forced Away. Chapter 2372, Forced Away. When one had reached the height of Celestial King tier, who did not just have the Tao of heaven and earth in their hearts, with their only purpose just to become the strongest, Shang Ji-wei was a 9th heaven Celestial King. Though she was not the most powerful existence in the world, there were but a mere 3 or 4 people that could surpass her. Yet, for the sake of being with her beloved, she did not hesitate to fuse herself with heavenly Tao. What was even more touching was the truth that the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable had already died, and only left behind a weak sliver of divine sense in the realm. Rather than calling him still alive, it would be more accurate to say that he was a slave, forever trapped here. However, Shang Ji-wei had still chosen to fuse with heavenly Tao without the slightest hesitation. This kind of love was to be respected and to be pitied as well. The Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable sighed. Ji-wei, is it worth it? He could not do anything, and could only say this. He could interfere with the 2 Heavenly Venerates because Heavenly Venerates were not recognized by the heaven and earth in the first place. He had only intensified the strength of the backlash from the heaven and earth. However, a 9th heaven Celestial King was still in the system of the heaven and earth, so he could do absolutely nothing. Because he had long since died, and what was left behind now was only a sliver of thought. Even Ling Han was incredibly moved. Because of Hun Yo, he had always felt conflicted about Shang Ji-wei, yet now he felt that this woman was truly worthy of the greatest admiration. However, if it was he would definitely be unwilling for his own women to end their lives in such a manner. However, no one could stop Shang Ji-wei. Flames were burning on her whole body. This was her actively burning her life force. A 9th heaven Celestial King was destroying herself, so who would dare approach? If they were implicated, that would definitely mean death. Only a Heavenly Venerate could ignore those flames. But now the 3 great Heavenly Venerates were fighting intensely, and not one of them could possibly make a move to stop her. Boom! Shang Ji-wei had completely burned up, turning into a flame, which finally dispersed in the realm. However, before fusing with Tao, there was not a sliver of pain or reluctance on her face. Her expression was only filled with love. Several epochs had passed, and she was actually able to see her beloved once more. This kind of great joy exceeded all else. She was tired, and only wished to lie in the arms of her beloved, never waking up. Crack, the heaven and earth grieved, expressing their sorrow at the passing of a celestial king. Silly girl. Silly girl. The Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable was incredibly rueful. He stretched out his hand and forcefully captured Shang-Ji Wei's dispersing spirit. Even if she was a ninth heaven celestial king, her Tao would be destroyed once she died. She would disperse completely, not leaving behind the slightest bit of trace of herself in this realm. The Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable was going against the heavens. He had forcefully gathered Shang-Ji Wei's spirit and then conformed it with heaven and earth. Though it was forever impossible for Shang-Ji Wei to come back to life, she would also never die. She would exist spiritually in the realm, being by the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable's side for eternity. From everyone's perspective, this was an incredibly unfortunate matter, but as Shang-Ji Wei saw it, perhaps this was the best conclusion for her. No matter how big the realm, how powerful she became, and how strong she was, without the company of her beloved, what meaning was there to it? The Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable had also exerted his strongest efforts. He could not revive Shang-Ji Wei, and could only make it so that her spirit would eternally be left in the realm. He shook his head, but Shang-Ji Wei could not manifest. She was only a ninth heaven celestial king, and was not qualified to leave behind an imprint of herself in the realm. On the other side, the battle of the three great heavenly venerates was also gradually reaching boiling point, and also caused the targeting from the heaven and earth to become even more frightening. This was not the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable causing trouble, but rather that their destructive power was really too terrifying. All of a sudden, the three great heavenly venerates all stopped. If they continued fighting, they would all be done for. It could not be helped. Who asked them to all be first-tier heavenly venerates? As long as they had not surpassed the heaven and earth, they would still be restrained by the heaven and earth. From today onwards, whoever dares to target this brat will be making an enemy of me. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was incredibly domineering, his eyes passing over the great celestial kings, filled with threat. And as for the two of you, he looked at Sealed Emotion and Jiwu. If the two of you dare to target this brat again, I will kill every single one of your line. Are you threatening me? Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable asked menacingly. He had been angered. Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu scoffed. So what if I am? If you dare make a move on this brat, I dare to eliminate your line. So what if you are unconvinced or displeased? I don't care. Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable's expression instantly appeared very ugly. Since having become a heavenly venerate, when had he been threatened like this? When they had reached heights that they did, they were all working for the sake of transcendence, so how could they possibly care about other matters? But it was a different story for the heavenly venerate Wu Lu, who looked like an absolute ruffian. The problem was that this kind of threat was extremely effective. Whether it was Sealed Emotion or Jiwu, they both had their descendants and heirs. Though beings like them did not attach too much importance to kinship, who would be willing to really have their whole line eliminated? Furthermore, Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was really very strong. Only when the Sealed Emotion Heavenly Venerable and Jiwu Heavenly Venerate worked together were they able to stand against him, which made this kind of threat even more realistic because Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu had not said that he would spare the two of them. Damn it, how has this guy's strength soared so greatly? However, I can also give the two of you a chance to kill him. Heavenly Venerate Wu Li's words took another turn. As long as they are not superior to this brat by more than 2 minor levels, anyone can make a move on him. I will definitely not interfere. When these words fell, Ling Han couldn't help but grit his teeth. He knew that the Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu was trying to temper him. However, this Heavenly Venerate had a really high opinion of him, to actually give the allowance of 2 minor levels. It should be known that it was not that the celestial realm did not have monarch stars. For example, if Ji Wuming was superior to Ling Han by 2 minor levels, just how powerful would his battle prowess be? However, no one knew that Ling Han's most powerful strength now was not his cultivation level, but rather his body art. Under the tempering of the power of heaven and earth, his body art had already far surpassed his cultivation level. Even a supreme monarch star like Shuegu could only be pummeled at his hand. They wanted to kill him with an advantage of just 2 minor levels. Unless the other was also as much of a freak as he was, and had long since touched the power of heaven and earth, this was impossible. Even a freak like Ji Wuming could not do so. If it was a heavenly venerate that had reincarnated, and was cultivating from the very beginning again, then it would be possible. But how could it be that a heavenly venerate would reincarnate and cultivate from the beginning just for the sake of killing Ling Han? Wasn't that a joke? Sealed emotion, Juwu, do you agree? Heavenly Venerate Wulu asked, his dominance soaring. Both sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable and Juwu, Heavenly Venerate were speechless. The two of them joining forces only managed to barely match Wulu, and even if the Green Flame's Heavenly Venerate, who had not showed himself all this while, was added into the equation, the 3 great Heavenly Venerates indeed would able to suppress Wulu together, but it would be completely delusional if they intended to kill this man just like that. When strength had reached the level that the Heavenly Venerate Wulu had reached, aside from a second-tier Heavenly Venerate, who else would be able to detain him? They could only leave to seek out Green Flames and discuss the matter before making their next move. The 2 great Heavenly Venerates wore an expression like they had eaten a dead child. They each nodded lightly, turned around, and ripped a hole in space, leaving. They would definitely send their most outstanding disciples to kill Ling Han. Additionally, they would also find Green Flame's Heavenly Venerate as soon as possible, so that the 3 of them could cooperate to deal with Wu Lo. Otherwise, when the passageway of the 2 realms reopened, who knew what kind of problem Heavenly Venerate Wu Lu would cause again? They were incredibly anxious, wanting to transcend, and with this priority in mind, anything else could be discarded. They could sacrifice anything for the sake of this. As they watched the 2 great Heavenly Venerates actually leaving dejectedly, everyone was in extreme disbelief. These were Heavenly Venerates, supreme beings, and they had actually been forced away. Was the world about to change? Chapter 2373, Battling Hong Huang Again. Chapter 2373, Battling Hong Huang Again. Congratulations, my friend. There is a chance that you will take the second step, the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable said. Heavenly Venerate Wulu nodded and said, I have heard this brat speak of you. Furthermore, I, too, have to thank you. Without your Heavenly Venerate tool, it would not have been possible for me to escape, either. He did not use a respectful address for himself, giving the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable enough face. The Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable looked towards Ling Han and revealed a smile. Actually, he had always been paying attention to this disciple, but there was never a time that required his interference, and it wasn't right until this instant that he finally showed himself. Not only had he resolved all of Ling Han's future worries, he had even found a great backer for him. He was also very gratified. This disciple that was separated from him by generations had hopes of surpassing himself. He felt very relieved, being able to delegate the responsibility for the future to Ling Han. Ling Han thought for a moment and then bowed. Greetings, Master. Since he started cultivating the indestructible Heaven Scroll, he had formed a relationship of master and disciple with the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable, even if they were separated by generations. The Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable nodded. In the future, you can only depend on yourself. To awaken me, the Tower of 3 Realms has also exercised its remaining might. From now onwards, it will sink into slumber. Unless you yourself can attain Heavenly Venerable tier, only then will you be able to revive it. Ling Han nodded. I will definitely achieve it. You are very good, the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable said. There was a limited amount of time for him to manifest. In the future, he would rejoin the Heavenly Tao. Though he could be considered as still existing, no one could know, and it would be eternally impossible for him to make any sound. Fusing himself with Heavenly Tao was equivalent to devoting himself to Heavenly Tao, so it was naturally impossible for him to have any individual existence. Heavenly Venerate. The large black dog raced over, howling at the skies. Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable looked at the large black dog with a smile and said, Little Black, assist Ling Han well in the future. Don't worry. The large black dog stood on its hind legs as he slung an arm around Ling Han's shoulders. I have been taking care of him all this while, and would always invite him in if there was anything good. Ling Han almost sent a kick over. Aside from screwing others over, what else had this damn dog done? I am leaving. In the future, you all will have to walk the path ahead on your own, the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable said, his figure becoming dimmer and dimmer. Respectful farewell, my lord. Practically everyone knelt down. They had all heard of the past achievements of the Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable. He had fused himself with Heavenly Realm and crashed himself into the connecting point of the two realms, winning a considerable number of epics of peace for the celestial realm. This kind of great feat naturally deserved respect. The Karmic Life Heavenly Venerable smiled, his figure gradually becoming fainter as he returned to the heaven and earth. Huang, a black tower descended, yet it had lost all its luster. Heavenly Venerate, the large black dog, wept horribly. Usually, he did not act the slightest bit proper, yet it was only now that he revealed his genuine temperament. Farewell, friend, Heavenly Venerate Wulu said as well. Though heavenly tribulation was fearful, he did not care in the slightest. He was about to cultivate the first tier to consummate level. His strength was incredibly high, and just a thought could smash the lightning giants that assailed him into bits. As long as he did not take any direct actions which would cause the targeting from the heaven and earth to become even more frightening, he was definitely indestructible and immortal. He looked towards Ling Han again, clapping his shoulder, and said, "Brat, you have to walk the path on your own, and there is no way that I will pave the way for you, either. Moreover, only a path that you have walked yourself will be wide enough, and you will be able to walk farther. If there isn't anything pressing, don't seek me out, but if anyone dares to bully you with their superior strength, I will not spare him either." Ling Han nodded. He, too, had no intention to depend on anyone. As long as their cultivation levels were close, what need would he have to fear anyone? That's right. Just moments ago, the large black dog was crying so badly, but the rate of his recovery was also dementedly fast. He had actually clapped a paw on Ling Han's shoulder, cheekily grinning, and said, "Brat, did you hear that? In the future, you are to run your own course." He paused, and then said shamelessly to Heavenly Venerate Wulu, "My lord, in the future, just shelter me. Grandpa Dog is 100 times more handsome, with talent 10,000 times greater than this brat's. Really, you would not be able to find anyone better." Scram! Faced with the large black dog's shamelessness, even Heavenly Venerate Wulu could not help but raise his foot and send him a kick. Thankfully, Heavenly Venerate Wulu was not really angered. Otherwise, if he really kicked solidly, the large black dog could just say goodbye to this world. That's it then. With a wave of his sleeve, Heavenly Venerate Wulu took a step and was already boundlessly far away. He had been away from the celestial realm for over a dozen epochs, so he naturally wanted to roam around everywhere. Ling Han, Ling Han, Ling Han. A group of youths walked over, gathering around Ling Han. In the past, when Ling Han had shown his great might, killing over 100 ancestral kings through trickery, it had practically been a blinding feat. However, they had not managed to interact with him in time when he had already been forced to flee into the foreign realm. "I anticipate another battle with you," Ji Wuming said as he stood in the distance, arms crossed behind his back. Humph! Hong Huang's eyes were seeping with menace. If the Heavenly Venerate Wulu had not announced that anyone who was superior to Ling Han by more than 2 minor levels could not make a move, he would definitely have killed Ling Han by now. It should be known that he had died in Ling Han's hands once. If it were not for the fact that the sealed emotion Heavenly Venerable had heaven-defying power, the grass growing on his grave would already be a foot tall by now. Ling Han had returned to the celestial realm, and his cultivation level had directly fallen to the second secret immortal palace tier, just like how he had been when he had left. However, he had actually converted a portion of his origin power into source power, so he could be considered an ascending origin tier as well. Yet how this cultivation level should be calculated now became a problem. But the aura he revealed now was truly just at the immortal palace tier. Thus, Hong Huang, who had already advanced to the ascending origin tier, naturally could not attack him. Ling Han looked over and asked, "You are not dead?" Hong Huang's expression became livid, yet he only humphed and did not reply. "Then I will send you to the underworld once again." Ling Han brandished a fist. His cultivation level was hard to determine, but his body art would not be influenced by the regulations. He still had battle prowess that surpassed the consummate level of the ascending origin tier. "I can't be bothered to fight you," Hong Huang scoffed. "Don't worry. Since it was I that issued the challenge, Lord Wu Lu would not make trouble for you even if I truly died in battle." Ling Han laughed. "How about it? Do you dare to battle me?" Hong Huang's heart was moved. Even if he could not kill Ling Han, he could still cruelly humiliate the latter. This was what Ling Han had invited, wasn't it? Thinking of this, he nodded and said, "Since you are so determined to ask for your own humiliation, I shall oblige you." He had already advanced into the ascending origin tier. Though he was only at small accomplishment, it was naturally easily done if he wanted to suppress a mere immortal palace tier. "Fourth brother, why don't you let me?" The Rain Emperor spoke up. Though he had had a late start, he was now in the lead as he, too, had successfully advanced into the ascending origin tier. Ling Han shook his head and said, "I can deal with this kind of trash on my own. There is no need to trouble you, second brother." "All right." The Rain Emperor nodded. He believed that Ling Han would not do anything that he was not certain that he could accomplish. Since Ling Han was so sure of himself, he had to have absolute certainty in his chances of victory. "It will not take a few. I'll be done soon. Second brother, please wait a while, and we will have a proper reunion," Ling Han said smilingly. At first, he had wanted to say a few seconds, but remembering that there was no way the Rain Emperor knew of the concept of minutes and seconds, he changed his words. "Ling Han, you are too condescending," Hong Huang stated coldly. He was incredibly furious, wanting nothing more than to tear Ling Han to pieces. Ling Han crooked a finger at him. "Within 3 moves, I will teach you how to behave." "Enough!" Hong Huang roared, his voice turning into a massive mountain-splitting axe that struck down on Ling Han. "The first move," Ling Han said smilingly as he casually threw a punch. His fist landed on the giant axe, and a terrifying power surged out. Pong! This massive axe was immediately shattered into smithereens, and the power of the punch was not reduced in the slightest, still blasting towards Hong Huang. Hong Huang's eyes immediately bulged as he was completely incapable of believing what he was seeing. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.